Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Prabhu जय सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान जय सीताराम लक्ष्मण जय श्रीपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सदस्य श्रीमान अभय चरणारविंद भक्त वेदांत गोस्वामी महाराज शील प्रभुपाद की जय लीला प्रविष्टोम श्रीपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सदस्य श्रीमान भक्त सिद्धांत सरस्वती महाराज शील प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम सहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोविंद श्याम राधा गिरी गोवर्धन की वृंदावन धाम की मायापुर धाम की मधुरपुरी धाम की जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की द्वारकापुरी धाम की गंगामाई की यमुना माई की तुलसी देवी की भक्ति देवी की सामवेद भक्त वृंद की गौर प्रेमानंदी all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, all glories to Shri Prabhupada. नमामि श्रीपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिधि नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशधारिणे ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय 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 संसार सागरे मग्नं दीनं मां करुणानिधे कर्मग्राहकैकान्तं मां धर भवार्णवान् श्रीमद्भागवताख्योऽयं प्रत्यक्षं कृष्णमेव हि स्वीकृतोऽसि मया नाथ मुक्त्यर्थं भवसागरे मनोरथे मदीयोऽयं सफला सर्वदा त्वया निर्विघ्नेनैव कर्तव्यं दासोऽहं तव केशव भवे भवे यथा भक्ति पादयोस्तव जायते तथा कुरुष्व देवेश नाथस्त्वं नो यग प्रभो नाम संकीर्तनं यस्य सर्वभावप्रणाशनं प्रणामो दुःखशमनं तं नमामि हरिं परम् जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयादिगुणतः आर्तेष्वभिज्ञस्वरान् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ते यत्सूरया तेजो वारिमृतं यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि धर्म प्रोज्झित कैतवोऽत्र परमो निर्मत्सराणां सदा वेद्यं वास्तवमत्र वस्तु शिवदं तावत्रयोन्मूलनम् श्रीमद्भागवते महामुनिकृते किं वा परेरीश्वरः सद्यो हृद्यवरुध्यतेऽत्र कृतिभिः शुश्रूषुभिः तत्क्षणात् निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखादमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसम् आलयं मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रयविनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तं हनुवेदमवेदकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकादरमाज्जुहाव पुत्रेति जन्मयदयत्तरवोऽभिनेतु तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि यस्वानुभावमखिलश्रुतिसारमेकम् अध्यात्मदीपमदितितीर्षदां तमोऽन्धम् संसारिणां करुणयाः पुराणगुह्यं तं व्याससूनुमुपयामि गुरुं मुनीनां नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् कमनीयकिशोरमुग्धमूर्ते कलवेणुकुणिदादृदानरेन्दोः मम वाजिजम्बदां मुरारे मधुरिण्ण कनिकाविकाविगावे नमो ॐ विश्वोपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिधि नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशधारिणे श्रीमद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वन्दे नन्दं व्रजस्त्रीणां पादरेणुमभीष्यशा व्यासं हरिकथोद्गीतं पुनादि भुवनत्रयं गोपीचरणारविन्दपरमाणवे नमः। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्खं कौमोदगी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायमतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वादालयेशमनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कोमलं पूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारका वेदवेद्यपरं ब्रह्म भासरां पुरतो मम मोहं करोति वाचालं भङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं जलकृपामहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीकृष्णाय श्रीमद्राधायै नमः। सर्वत्र गोविन्दनाम संकीर्तनं गोविन्द गोविन्द।
From the Srimad Bhagavatam, what we are discussing for the last few Sundays is Krishna's instructions to Uddhava. Uddhava asked Krishna several questions. From chapter 7 onwards, Krishna's answer to those questions from Uddhava. So, as you know, that when we have discussed the 12th chapter of this canto, Ekadasha Skandam, there Krishna stressed the importance of Satsangam. That is the important discussion in the Ekadasha Skandam. Krishna says to Uddhava, bhakti that has happened, what development of bhakti through Satsangam is the most important point. Krishna stresses that in the 12th chapter. In the 12th chapter. So Krishna says there that the Satsangam, when Krishna says the glories of Satsangam, how one should perform, associate with devotees, he says that Salsangena hi degeyo yadudhana mridhaha khagaha gandharvaha apsaraso nagaha siddhas charana guhyagaha. So after saying that, Krishna mentioned in the 13th chapter, so importance of Salsangam Krishna discussed in the 12th chapter. Immediately after that, in the 13th chapter, Krishna spoke about the Vedangam, the knowledge side of Krishna consciousness. In other words, how important it is to realize the self and to realize the truth while living within this body before we leave this world. This was discussed in the 13th chapter. After the 13th chapter, in the 14th chapter, Krishna started discussing about bhakti, the importance of bhakti. And that is what we were discussing last Sunday also. So here, Uddhava asked this question to Krishna, that how is that the many different conclusions have come from Vedic literature, from the different sages who have come with different conclusions. Krishna answered the question saying that Uddhava, there is nothing very secret about it. What it is that according to the modes of nature, different people will come up with different conclusions from the same Vedic philosophy, from the Vedic understanding. That is why Krishna says there that the Vedic philosophy, Manmaya, Mohidadiya, Purusha, Purusharshabha. That means in the verse 9, you can see there, Manmaya, Mohidadiya. Krishna's Maya, powerful Maya, will capture everybody, and because of that, Shayo Vadanti Negandam Yatha Karmam Yatha Ruchi. According to their own karmam and according to their taste, they will engage in their karmam and they will come to their own conclusions as well. In prior to that, Krishna says, Evam Prakriti Vajitra Bhindande Matayo Nranam. Prakriti Vajitra means these differences in the material nature. They will come up with a different understanding. Parampariyana Keshanjil Paganda Mathayo Apare. That although these different parampara systems, what is in existing, is also due to that, the differences in their Prakriti Vajitra. Prakriti Vajitra means in their nature, changes in difference in their nature. So all that thing we have talked about before. And if you look into verse 12, from there on, Krishna is saying that Mayarpigalpana Sabhya Nirabekshasya Sarvada Maya Alpana Sukham Yatal Pudasya Dushaya Alpana. Krishna saying there that there is no one who is superior, one who has no desires inside. You will see in the Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says the same thing. The desire is the cause of everything, isn't it? When we have some desire, any desire inside is not favorable for spiritual life. So, therefore, Krishna says, Nirabekshasya Sarvada, always free from desires. And my Alpana Sukham Yatal Pudaswal Vishayalpanam, one who is free from the desires, he alone is capable of understanding spiritual life, what spiritual life is. Pudasya Vishayalpanam, such a person will never be attracted by sense enjoyment, sense gratification in any way. To freedom from the body, freedom from the senses, freedom from the mind. This is what Shastram talks about. How to free ourselves from the influence of the body, mind and the senses. And after that Krishna says to Uddhava, Akinchanasya dandasya shandasya samachedasa maya sandushta manasa sarve sukhamaya disha. A person, Krishna says, Akinchanasya, one who has no possessions in this world, who does not think that he owns anything in this world. Akinchanatvam. That is what Akinchanatvam means. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says the same thing, isn't it? Nishkinjanasya. Nishkinjana is the word he uses there. Here Krishna uses the word Akinchanatvam. Akinchanatvam, Nishkinjanatvam all particularly means the same. That Dandasya, also control of the senses, and Shandasya, always in that mood, peaceful, tranquil mood. Samachedasaha, always equal with everyone in this world, no particular attachment or aversion to anyone. Shandasya Samachedasa. What else? Maya Sandushka Manasa, because he is always absorbed in Krishna, absorbed in the soul, Sarve Sukhamaya Disha. For him there is only happiness in all directions. Our happiness and distress in this world is based on the attachment and aversion we create in this world, isn't it? It is from there it originates. So Krishna's point is a devotee or a jnani who has come to this state where he has no attachment, no aversion. For him there is no unhappiness either, because maya santushta manasa. He is completely absorbed in the soul or Krishna, and sarve sukhamaya disha. In all directions he has happiness. And then na parameshtam, na mahendradishtim, na sarvabhaumam, na rasadhivatyam, na yoga siddhi, abhinarbhavam va, mayarpidarnyachali, anyada madhuna anyat. So that devotee, Krishna says, he is so free from desires to such an extent, if you offer him Brahmalokam, Satyalokam also he rejects that. Na Varaneshtam, na Mahendradishnim, if you are offered the power position of Indra, he does not want it. Na Sarvabhaumam, if you make him the emperor of the world, he does not want it, or the president of the whole world. Na Rasadhivatyam, Rasadalam also he is not attracted to. Na Yoga Siddhi, if you offer him any siddhis, he finds them all a problem. All the siddhis are also a problem in his progress in spiritual life, in his journey towards back to Krishna. Na yoga siddhi. Abhinarbhavam, even accepting another body, he is not bothered about it because he knows very well that taking birth and leaving the body is not to the soul. It does not happen in the soul. What's happening is due to our avidya inside. That we understand that body is the one which dies, body is the one which accepts, which comes and body leaves us, but it doesn't affect the soul. He is in that state of realization that the repetition of birth and death does not bother him anymore. Na yoga siddhi abhinarbhavam va. Then what else? Mayarpidalpechari madhuna anyat. He has surrendered himself to such a state to Krishna that madvina anyat, he does not know anything else except Krishna. That is the state of surrender what that devotee has come. So here in this chapter what Krishna is saying is that about that devotees whom he considers as devotees, whom Krishna considers as devotees. That is the perfection of pure devotion. The pure devotee's position is what Krishna is discussing here. He is not talking about all kinds of other devotees in this world. Krishna is talking about the pure devotees of whom Krishna considers as devotees. They are the one Krishna considers devotees. That is why he said there at that point, Na tadame pranama almayonir na shankara na jas sangarshanam na shri naivalmaja yatha bhavan. He says to Uddhava, there is no one who is dearer to me than you. Not even Balaram, not even Lord Shiva, and not even Brahma or even Lakshmi Devi, none of them are as dear to me as you are. Krishna says that, isn't it? And then he says such a devotee in that category, he will be like this. What is that? Niraveksham munim shandam. He has no desire, nothing, absolutely no desire inside. Niraveksham munim shandam. And still he is a muni, he is a very thoughtful person. Although he does not have any desires, at the same time he is very thoughtful, very silent and thoughtful. What else? Shandam, always in peaceful mode. Nurvainam samadarshinam. He has not got any enemies in this world. He hasn't created any enemies in this world because for him that it is only Krishna exists in this whole creation, nothing else. He does not see anyone in terms of the body, with the bodily identity. Therefore, he is free from ragadvesham as well. Niravekshamunim shantam nurvairam samadarshinam. Samadarshinam. Therefore, because he is seeing Krishna's presence, the spiritual spark in everybody, that instead of seeing the external appearance of the material body, samadarshinam, equal vision everywhere. Anubrajamyaham nityam puyetyamvire nuhi. Then such a devotee, Krishna says, I follow that person to get myself purified because such personality, their presence in this world purifies the whole world. Purifies the whole world. That is what Krishna is saying here. That their very presence in this world purifies the world. Why? Because due to their presence, others also get inspired to go into the spiritual path and to realize the truth. So therefore, Krishna said that to Uddhava, and then we have seen that verse, and after that, the next verse, what's what we were discussing last Sunday. Nishkinjanam maya nirakta chetasaha Shanda Mahando Akila Jivaval Salaha Kame Analabdadiyo Jushandiyal Tanairaveksham Navidusukham Mama. Krishna is saying Nishkinjanatum. You will see, keep Krishna discussing this Nishkinjanatum. Earlier he said Aginjanasya Dandasya. Here Krishna says Nishkinjanamai Anurakta Chedasa. It is only possible to accept, to understand, or to take seriously Krishna consciousness when Krishna says when material desires leaves us. So long as one has plans in this world continuously to enjoy the life in this world and get attracted by any of the material activities, then it is desires will naturally come up in a person like that. Therefore, Krishna says Nishkinjanasam. Nishkinjanam ay anurakta chedasaham. Anurakta asakti or attachment to Krishna is an important thing there, and that is what takes him away from there. Shanda Mahando Akila Jiva Valsalaha. That person is in Shandi, in peaceful mode all the time. And Krishna calls them as Mahanda. Mahanda means great souls. They are great souls. Shanda Mahando Akila Jiva Valsalaha. Why they are great souls? Because out of their mercy, they continue to act in this world. They have already left this world and gone away. Already the truth has become a reality for them. They have realized the truth. But in spite of that, they are still willing to carry out certain activities in this world for the benefit of others, out of their compassion, out of their mercy to this world. This is the personality Krishna is talking about. Because often this question will come. When a person is self-realized, does he have to do any more work in this world? This question will come. Shanda Mahando Nivasandi Sando Vasandaval Lokahitam Charandaham Tirna Swayam Bhima Bhavar Navam Jana Mahedvanyanabi Tarayantyaham. Shanda Mahando Nivasandi Sando. There are good souls, calm and magnanimous. Vasandaval Lokahitam Charandaha, who do good to others as does the spring and who having themselves Tirna Swayam Bhima Bhavar Navam Janaha Ahedunanyanabi Tarayandyaha. They have already escaped from this world. They are liberated. Already they are liberated. But in spite of being in the liberated state, they still continue to work in this world for the benefit of others. That is why Krishna calls them as Mahanda. Mahanda means those who have already freed themselves from material existence. Material body, they don't identify with their material body anymore. They are free from the material body. Although they are living within this body, they are already escaped from this world, escaped from this body. They are not in material existence anymore. So, having reached that state, why do they continue to exist in that? Why do they continue to work in this world? This question will come, always, isn't it? Why do they continue to live in this world? It is only due to their causeless mercy or compassion to the world, seeing other living entities suffering here and not without any ignorance. When they see that, they feel the compassion and want to propagate Krishna consciousness or spiritual life in that way. That's what it says here. Shanda Mahanda Parama Prashandaha. That such people, Krishna says, they are completely free from any ego. Completely free from ego. And the sadhu, they are called sadhus, they will be present in this world. Vasandavat Lokahidam Charandaha. Vasandavat Lokahidam Charandaha. Vasandavat means that just like in the spring season, how the flowers comes out, how all the flowers starts coming out, and also fruit starts coming out in the summertime. Similarly, everything, all the whole creation, all the trees, plants, they all come back to life when the season changes, in the spring season, isn't it? After an autumn weather and the winter, when they have shed all the leaves and they remain completely bare few months, and after that when the spring season comes, how they all come back to life. In the same way, Krishna says, due to their presence, that when they are present in this world, they change the whole environment of this world. whole environment of this world. They are capable of doing that. That's what Krishna is saying here. And not only that, they have already crossed the ocean of material existence. They have gone beyond this material conditioned life. And generally, material life means we are affected with the fear of material existence, isn't it? Birth, death, old age and disease. These things are constantly affecting us in all our life, existence in this world. Apart from that, there is other, what Bhagavatam says is Tapatrayam, Adhyatmikam, Adibhaudikam, Adidevigam, the three kinds of miseries what we experience in this world. So, those who have freed themselves from Tapatrayam, from all these three miseries of material life, and also from the material existence, or who have come to that state where they are completely free from the anxiety and fear of material life, they are the ones who are liberated souls, whom Krishna is referring to here. Shanda Mahando Akila Jiva Valsalaha. Those Mahatmas, Akila Jiva Valsala, they have an unusual mercy from them coming to this world. They have because they don't have there is a least trace of any ego inside. They are completely lost track. Ego has completely gone away from them. They have practically absolutely no desire at all inside. There is no desire inside. There is no ego inside. And on the other hand, they also don't desire or any kind of benefit from their activities. They are not looking for any results from their activities. These are the nature of a person who has reached that state. First thing, he is free from desires. He is free from desires. He is free from false ego. And then he is also on the understanding that he is always not expecting any results from his activities. Nishkinjanatam. Nishkinjanasyam Nishkinjanamai Anurakta Chetasaha. They don't have anything in their hand, but at the same time, 24 hours, they have Krishna in their heart. Krishna is in their heart. That's what he says here, that as far as they are in their inside, in their heart, except Krishna, nothing else stays there. Shanda Mahando Akila Jiva Valsalaha. That even when they are in there, they can go into the isolation and to seclusion in the places like Himalayas and live in a cave there, and at the same time they can be absorbed in the soul. It can be absorbed in the soul. It is a state of existence for them. They have completely moved out of this world, in other words. That is the state they are discussing here. So after reaching that stage, Bhartrhari says this in his book. He says, Dhanyanam Girigandareshu Asadam Jyoti Param Dhyayatam Anandashru Kanandi Vibadam Nishangam Geshaya. What he says is that great yogis, they go to Himalayas and then in deep meditation, they realize the self of the soul. When self-realization happens to them, in that happiness of the soul, they start shedding tears from their eyes. They start shedding tears from their eyes. At that time, little birds go and sit in their lap and start drinking these tears that's coming from their eyes. Tears coming from their eyes. Because the birds, they feel so close with such a personality who have not a threat to anybody anymore because of this self-realization has happened to them. So Bhartrhari says that state, that Dhanyanam Girigandareshu Asadam Jyoti Param Dhyayadam Anandashru Kanandi Vyodam Nishangamangeshaya. That when these drops of tears are coming from their eyes, the birds get attracted to that. They enjoy drinking the tears that comes from their eyes. They say that Akila Jiva Valsalaha. Similarly, simply out of their compassion, all the great personalities, if you look in the spiritual life, you will see they had great compassion for others. A feeling that others are suffering in this world due to one reason or the other. Due to material life, everybody is suffering in this world. Some people accept it, some people don't want to know about it, they ignore it and go another way. But the fact remains, as Krishna says, that the anityam asukam logam imam prapya pachasvamam. Material life is always temporary and there will be always constant anxiety in this world in something or the other. So he says here that even though the realized soul, they have this experience of self-realization, but in spite of that, they will again come back to this world to engage in some activity. They will engage in some activity for the benefit of this world. That is quite common. And the reason for that is that particular effect of those persons is not coming from them. Actually, it is Krishna who engages them, who brings them to that state, and through them, Krishna's energy works in this world. Krishna's energy works in this world through them. This is how it happens. And that's why it's called Anugraha Shakti, Krishna's power of mercy. That is what it's called. The power of mercy of Krishna. That is how it comes to this world. Through these great souls, Mahatmas, who already they have escaped from this world, but out of compassion for this, where is that compassion coming from? Compassion is coming from Krishna. Krishna's compassion flows through them to this world, and naturally they can't stay away because of that. In the Lalila Sahasranam there is a statement, Panchakritya Parayana, Krishna does 5 things. Srishti, Sthiti, Samharam and Tirodhanam and Anugraham Shakti. For 5 things, Panchakritya Parayana. That is in the Lalila Sahasranam it says like that. So this Anugraha Shakti, or the power to help the Jiva from Krishna's side, comes through these Mahatmas. Mahatmas are sent here, and after self-realization, they live in this world for the benefit of others, simply for the benefit of others. They don't need anything from here. All desires have already gone. All desires have already left them. They don't have any more desires to fulfill. There is not even any trace of ego inside. There is no trace of any ego inside. They have no possessions in this world. Nishkinjanatvam. All these 3 things are in full in those persons. They have no attraction to anything because they are finished with this world. They know very well after leaving this world they are going back to Krishna or wherever Krishna has arranged for their next situation, whatever that may be. That is liberated state. So those liberated souls, they will still continue to act in this world for the benefit of others. Why? Because Krishna's Anugraha Shakti, this power of mercy, it starts flowing through them to this world. This is how it happens. It is in so many examples. Throughout history, if you look carefully, you will see this, how this mercy flows through them to this world. They themselves acknowledge this later, that it was not they have done it, it has just happened by Krishna's arrangement. Krishna works through them. We don't notice all these things. We think that somebody has done something, that we give credit to some people, that of course we have to say that it is Krishna who is working through them. That is Krishna's Anugraha Shakti. Anugraha Shakti means the power of that mercy, Krishna's blessing to this world. When Krishna wants to bless this world, it comes through this Mahanda, Akhila Jiva Valsalaha. That is what Krishna is saying here. Shanda Mahando Nivasandi Sando Vansandaval Lokahitam Charannaha Tirna Swayam Bhima Bhavarnavam Jana Mahiruna Jnanavi Parayandyaha. Shanda Mahando Nivasandi Sando. The same verse. Nishkinjana Maya Nirakta Chedasaha. Shanda Mahando Akhila Jiva Valsalaha. They are such people that Shanda Mahando Nivasandi Sando, they are always in such a state that Vasandaval Lokahitam Charandaha, that they have only one goal in their one thought in their mind, how to do something good in this world before they depart from here. They have already reached that state. We have to remember that they don't need anything from here anymore. All desires have gone from inside. There is not even the slightest ego inside in any way. And apart from that, they don't own anything here. They don't own anything anymore. Everything is Krishna's. That is clear in their mind. So everything is so detached, and that's why Krishna keeps saying that Nishkinjanatum, Nishkinjanatum. Nishkinjanatum means this, that there is no ownership, possessiveness or anything in this world. So, Mayanirakta Chetasaha, at the same time, they are completely absorbed in Krishna. If it is a devotee, it's completely in Krishna. We'll say, if it is a jnani, it's absorbed in the soul. That's it. They are completely fixed there in that state. So, Nishkinjana Mayanirakta Chetasaha and Shantana Hando Akhila Jiva Valsalaha. At the same time, through them, Krishna's karunyam or mercy is flowing freely in this world. Freely it is flowing in this world. So freely it is flowing that due to their presence, the world feels the benefit. Due to their presence, the world feels the benefits. Many great souls, if you look at their life, you will see this, that even it's spoken about, like Vivekananda also, it was spoken in the same way about him, that he went to America and after coming back he said that actually it was all not planned by me, it was meant to happen in that way, that something in me has pushing me to go, pushing me to talk about Bhagavad Gita and other things in his lectures in America. He talks about that at some point. He says that some unusual power has pulled me away from here to go and forced me to act in that particular way. That mercy is not coming from that person. It is coming from Krishna. It is Krishna's power that is flowing through them. It's the same thing with Prabhupada also. If you look at it, till up to the age of 70, Prabhupada didn't travel anywhere else, he stayed. But when that time came, that when Krishna felt that it was necessary to help the world through Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada was from within, Krishna prompted him to go. In spite of all the problems, that the power of Krishna's mercy is such, it will push him to go and carry out the work what was meant to be done. So you can see how in spiritual life, Krishna is always present in this world. In all these great Mahatmas, when they do their different activities in this world, we have to recognize it is Krishna's activity, not their activity. That is how we have to see it. We have to see it in that way. It is Krishna's Anugraha Shakti, or that power of mercy is coming in that way through them. That is how it has to be understood. Akhila Jiva Valsala. Why? Because at that point in time, how does it work? Continuously they feel a great compassion to all the souls, all those who are suffering in this world. That this example is there in many people's life. Many people's life. Talking about their compassion. There are so many examples in the Srimad Bhagavatam. There are so many examples who have lived in the past. Ramana Maharshi's case, they used to say this quite often. At his early age, it was 16, 17 years old, when he came to Tiruvannamalai, and when he was in the cave where he was performing his austerities and penances, at the time the insects have come and eaten half his body away. Most of the flesh in the body was eaten away by the insects, like the spiders, cobwebs, everything. They were enjoying his body. So after that, when he came out, already he was in a disabled condition, and he used to walk with a stick. He used to walk with the help of a stick. So he stayed in that at the age of 16, 17, this started, and right up to the age till he left his body, he was in that state. He never got back his health again. But due to the power of self-realization and to the knowledge of the soul, what he is, his personal identity, what he has realized, whenever he reacted with this world, this karunyam, mercy was always there in him. In one occasion they say that when he was walking with the help of a stick in the street, that suddenly he saw a cat pouncing on a squirrel, trying to catch the squirrel. When he saw that, he could not bear that the squirrel is going to be eaten by the cat. He threw that stick between the cat and the squirrel escaped. But in that process he fell and broke his arm, because already he was so dependent on the stick to walk. But due to that mercy inside, another living entity suffering in this world, for any reason they couldn't see it anymore. Rather he threw that way and then he fell down and he broke. So, Shanda Mahando Akhila Jiva Valsalaha. that karunyam, that mercy in their heart is so deep. They cannot keep it out because they have nothing to gain in this world anymore. They have already reached that state that they see that this material life, people are simply absorbed in the body, and in that ignorance they are continuously suffering in this world. They have come to that conclusion. Unlike us, this is the difference between a person in knowledge and a person in ignorance. Person in ignorance will use the money, all what they have acquired in this world, for the benefit of others from a bodily level. But persons who are in the knowledge, they will see, for them, they see that the misery of the material world, because they have crossed beyond that. They have already crossed the ocean of material life. Samsara dhavan analinha loka. They have already crossed this ocean of material life, so they are in a position to see things clear, and they are able to help this world. So, Akhila Jiva Valsalaha. So many examples. Valmiki story, if you know what has happened with Valmiki. Valmiki, when he wrote Ramayana, if you go back to the beginning of Ramayana, you will see there. One morning, Valmiki went to bathe in the river. At that time, Bharadwaja Maharshi was also with him. And it was then that what Valmiki saw there. Two birds were sitting on a tree, a male bird and a female bird. And they were living in that. They were in a happy state, both of them, the male bird and the female bird, they were together. Suddenly, a hunter came and shot an arrow and killed the male bird, fell down dead onto the ground. When Valmiki saw that, he saw the distress what the female bird was experiencing. And he says there, Ma nishada pradishtam tvam magamashashwari samaha. This is the first verse of the Ramayana. It says like that Ma nishada pradishtam tha agamashashwari samaha yal kraunja midunadekam avadhi kama mohidam. That even though the male bird and the female bird were enjoying life together, this action from the hunter who shot the arrow and killed the male bird upset Valmiki. That distress what Valmiki felt has come in the form of a book, and that is Ramayana. Shogam Shlogatvam Agada. That shogam or distress what he experienced at that time has come in the form of Ramayana later. So there is the great personalities, their heart is very, very, very soft. They can't see the distress of other living entities in this world, other living entities suffering in this world. That is why they are like that. So there was a great personality, Ramalinga Swamiji. He used to refer this all the time, that whenever he saw anyone's stomach completely empty, he used to feel like that, and he used to feel disturbed over that. He used to feel continuously disturbed over that. In Srimad Bhagavatam, you will have an example of Randideva, if you know that story in the 9th canto. Randideva's story. He took a vow not to eat any food for 40 days. And after that, there was a little bit food left. And when he was going to eat that, at that time, demigods wanted to test him. They came in a different dress, in the dress of a Shudra. They came up to him and asked him for the food, what was left. He was going to eat after 40 days of fasting. He had no food for 40 days. And they asked for the food. So Randideva gave half the food to him, and after eating that half of the food, they asked again for the remaining food. So Randideva gave that as well. Ultimately, there was some water left over, and he was going to drink that water. It was then that Yamadharmaraja came in the form of a Chandala, in a dog eater, in front of him, and started saying that I am feeling extremely thirsty, I need the water to drink. So he gave the water also to him and says there, Hari Sarveshu Bhudeshu Bhagavan Asta Ishvara. Randideva is saying that in all bodies who is present is Hari. Krishna is present in everyone's body. Hari Sarveshu Bhudeshu Bhagavan Asta Ishvara. Saying that he was handed over that water also to him, and almost Rantideva was going to collapse. It was at that time Maya Devi, just like removing a screen from inside, and in front of him appeared Vishnu. And in that way Rantideva was cared for, but Rantideva's Karunyam, that is well known in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Karunyam means that mercy, that it is in a very natural way it comes to them. It's not artificially they think anything, but in a natural way it comes to them. And that is why Krishna says here in that verse, Kamai, that is the verse, in the next verse Krishna is going to talk about that. Kamairanalabdadiyo jushandiya tannairaveksham navidu sukham mama. Krishna says here, Kamai analabdadiyo jushandiya tannairaveksham navidu sukham mama. So, Kamai analabdadiyaha, that because there is no desire inside, they are always happy at the same time, and that happiness the world outside cannot understand what happiness they are experiencing. We cannot understand that. A person without any desire, he has a great degree of happiness, and that happiness is difficult to know outside for others. For others it is difficult to know. That's why Krishna says here, Kamai analabdadiyo jushandiya tan nairaveksham na vitu sukham mama. Nairaveksham, na niravekshatvam, that no desire for anything, Tan nairaveksham na vidu sukham mama. Tan nairaveksham na vidu sukham mama. In the spiritual life, often we think that it is necessary to pray to Krishna, isn't it? We will say like that, or we have to pray to Krishna, or we have to pray for this, pray for that. Actually, advanced devotees, they don't pray. They don't pray anything to Krishna. Because they are so surrendered to Krishna and they understand Krishna consciousness in the proper way, they are willing to accept whatever situation Krishna has put them in. It is those devotees that they control Krishna. Such devotees, they control Krishna. Not the ones who are asking all the time. For them, Krishna keeps away from them because they give so much trouble. So that's why he says here that Kamairanalabdhadiyo jushandiyan tannairaveksham navidu sukham mama. That niravekshatvam, or freedom from any desires in them, makes Krishna to accept them. Kamai analabdhadiyo jushandiyan tannairaveksham navidu sukham mama. So, this situation is the topmost devotee's case. This is a topmost devotee. This person Krishna is talking about in that verse. Nishkinjanamai anurakta chetasaha. First of all, nishkinjanatvam. No desire to have anything. Plus, my anurakta chetasaha. Completely absorbed in Krishna. What else? Shandaha. Always peaceful because of the Krishna consciousness inside. Mahando akila jiva valsalaha. Same time, they have so much mercy coming through them to this world because of Krishna's arrangement. Krishna wants that it should happen through them. Krishna keeps them in this world only for the benefit of this world. Krishna keeps such personalities in this world only for the welfare of others. Those who want to take advantage of them, so that let them get benefited. There was always people who are looking for spiritual realization in this world. There are always people. And there will always be people who will be able to guide them in the spiritual life. That is also there. Why? The relationship is like that. Everything is controlled by Krishna. Just like Krishna maintains us in this world through the supply of food, the clothing and all the other weather conditions, everything, the seasons changing, the night, day, and the sunlight, water, everything is provided by Krishna. In the same way, just like to maintain our material body, how Krishna provides everything. In the same way, for spiritual life also, those who are looking for spiritual life, Krishna also provides the guidance in this world, in spiritual direction. That's also there. You can't deny that. It's not that only Krishna looks after our material body. Krishna looks after our spiritual life as well. And there will always be people in this world who are looking for spiritual realization. It may not be many, but there will be a few. But to those who are seriously looking for spiritual realization, Krishna is saying that it is for them that these devotees are maintained in this world. Nishkinjana Mayanurakta Chedasaha, that they are Nishkinjana, they have no desire whatsoever, absolutely free from all desires, number one. Secondly, Mayanurakta Chedasa, completely surrendered to Krishna in all aspects. There is nothing is bothering them in this world, that Krishna, or praying to Krishna, give me this, give me that. There is no prayers to Krishna anymore after that. Nishkinjana Mayanurakta Chitta. Then Shandaha, always peaceful because there is no desire inside, always peaceful. There is no disturbances, always peaceful within. Shandaha. Mahando Akhila Jiva Valsalaha. Their life in this world is only for the benefit of Akhila Jiva Valsalaha, for the benefit of all others in this world. They live in this body only for the benefit of others. That's all it is. Shanda Mahando Akhila Jiva Valsalaha. So this is their state of existence in this world. And Krishna also said, Kamai Analabdaliyo Jushandiyal Tan Nairaveksham Navidu Sukhamama. Because Nairavekshana, or no further, they don't want anything from Krishna. Niravekshatvam. Because of that, Kamai Analabdaliyo, they have no desire to fulfill anymore anything in this world. They are free from all desires. Analabdadiyo Jushandiya Tan Nairaveksham Navidu Sukhamama. At the same time, they are always in a very happy state. Very, very happy state. Why? Navidu Sukhamama. That happiness only they know, we won't know that. What that happiness Krishna is talking about. So this is the first class devotee Krishna is talking about. The first class devotee. After that, just talking about Krishna is now talking about bhakti, isn't it? Krishna is talking about bhakti. So he is discussing, Krishna is saying to Uddhava, bhakti is such a powerful force that even though a devotee may not have reached that state, even if he has some material attachment in this world, in course of time, that material attachment will also go. Why? Praja Pragalbhaya Bhaktya. That bhakti inside will purify him and he will come out of it. That's what Krishna is saying in the next verse. Bhadhyamano bhiman bhakto vishaye ajidendriyaha praya pragalbhaya bhaktya vishaye nabhibhuyate. Krishna says there that Bhadhyamano bhiman bhakto vishaye ajidendriyaha. That, say for example, it is all these verses requires examples to understand how it works, what Krishna is talking about. Earlier we saw that Krishna says, I walk behind the pure devotees to purify myself. We discussed that last Sunday, isn't it? I walk behind the pure devotees and I take the dust from their feet to purify myself, Krishna says. What is the purpose of saying that? Purpose was this. Krishna has already made it very clear. A devotee is that person who has 100% surrendered to Krishna, who has completely taken shelter of Krishna, and there is no more ego inside. No more ego has completely left him. All ego has gone away from him. He is a devotee. Krishna calls him as a devotee. He says to Uddhava, the examples from the Bhagavatam, like Rahugana spoke to, Jadabrata spoke to Rahugana, and Prahlada spoke in the 7th canto. You can see there, Vina Mahalpada Rajobhishekam, that unless you have received the dust from the feet of a Mahalpa or a soul, and you cannot purify yourself, you will not come to that state of surrender, to the state of self-realization. After saying that, Krishna says to Uddhava, it's not necessary that you have to go and looking for a Mahalpa in this world. You can start practicing it here, right now. And that is when Krishna says to Uddhava, the first step in that direction is Praname Dandavad Bhumam Ashwa Chandala Bhagaram. First you start paying obeisances to every living entity in this world. If it is not physically possible to do it, at least by recognizing and respecting Krishna's presence in another body, doesn't matter who it is, whether it is a cat or a dog or an ass or a horse, whatever it is, animals or birds or even human beings, in all bodies, wherever there is life present, Krishna says, accept that it is Krishna who is present inside and pay your respects to that living entity. By doing that, Krishna says, in due course of time, attachment and aversion to that in this world will leave away. Suppose someone has a feeling of any animosity or any ill feeling towards another person, or any kind of aversion inside, easiest way to get rid of that, Krishna says, is to take this vision inside, to see Krishna's presence in that person. In that way, that aversion or ill feeling will not create more problems for him later. So that's the only way one can wipe out that ill feeling from inside. So therefore Krishna says, begin with this. What is that? Praname Dandavadhom Ashwachandala Bhogaram. That straight away start paying your respects to everyone without looking whether he is qualified or not. We have to understand this, because otherwise normally we have the idea that somebody first decide whether should I pay my obeisances to him or not. Is he qualified for that? First we make a decision like that. This is the general tendency. But that is institutional. That's not Krishna's instruction. In an institution you need all that. Because there is gradation. This is higher, this is lower, this is senior, this is junior, this is sannyasi, this is brahmachari, this is fallen householder, or this is an advanced sannyasi. All these things have come through the institution. But when you come to spiritual life, when you take Srimad Bhagavatam in the hand, all the great devotees who have gone to Krishna with Bhagavatam in their hand, they cannot follow those rules. They don't apply to them. For them, there is nothing in this world except Krishna present everywhere. Everywhere what you see is Krishna's presence. So if we develop this understanding that only certain people are worth of respect, only certain people are worth of any say obeisances or respects, then already Veda Buddhi has come. We have already put somebody else lower and somebody else higher. Veda Buddhi has come there. And that Veda Buddhi, this Buddhi, seeing that is not seeing based on the soul, is seeing on the body. Veda Buddhi comes on the bodily level, isn't it? Veda Buddhi comes on the bodily level. So, sometimes people will say this also it is interesting. People will say, well, I am paying respects to Krishna's presence in the sannyasi, in that body, what I see. Actually, we are not seeing anything, we are only seeing the dress outside. We keep claiming that because he is a sannyasi, it's a danda he has got, or whatever it is, we start saying that because he is a sannyasi, Krishna is present in him. Krishna is present in the same quantity in a cat or a dog or in a sannyasi or in a... That is why, if you look into Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna says there, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shinijaiva Shobhageja Pandita Samadarshana. Samadarshitvam, that equal vision won't happen from that. That may be alright, in the institutional state it is okay. That Samadarshitvam won't happen though. That in institution to keep that sannyasi's position higher, or that we also do in the offices listening. If you see the boss, you will say good morning to him. If you see somebody else, you won't care. So this is not much different than that. So these relationships based on the body is always like that. But here Krishna is saying to come out of this cage called this material body, we have to come out of in our realization that all living entities also, it is Krishna who is present there. And that's important. And that concern, that understanding will only come when we see this, that Krishna says here, that a state where Krishna says to Uddhava, it is like this, that if you cannot come to that state, continuously pay respects to everyone in this world, irrespective of who it is, higher, lower, not have to judge anybody in any way. And that includes all the dogs, cats and all animals, everyone. Wherever there is life, a spark of life there, Krishna says, pay your respects to that living entity. If you practice that, Krishna says, after some time, when that realization becomes as a devotee, you will progress. You will progress as a devotee. That is what Krishna spoke about bhakti. Krishna is giving, actually in these verses, Krishna is giving us a lot of clue, proper way how to develop bhakti inside. It is not, bhakti is not something just following a lot of rules and regulations. This is our misunderstanding. Every day if I am getting up at 3 o'clock, does mean I am a devotee? Or if every day I am chanting 16 rounds, does it mean I am a devotee? Or every day if I am going to the temple, does it mean I am a devotee? If I everywhere wearing dhoti and tilak, am I a devotee? These are ajaram, that is in our nishtha or in our daily life we practice in the sadhana state. But when it comes to a devotee, when Krishna is talking about a devotee, it is the person whose heart has changed, who has become a devotee. That is whom Krishna recognizes as a devotee. There are so many devotees in this world, but this devotee what Krishna is talking about is on a different level. That is the state of bhakti, what Krishna has discussed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. That differentiation we have to make it. That is why whenever we discuss all these verses in the Bhagavatam, we should go home and read these verses again and again so that we get always kept in the right track. Otherwise, as soon as you mingle with people who have not studied Srimad Bhagavatam, they will drive your bhakti in a different direction. They will tell you what is their understanding of bhakti. Because often people will come to these conclusions that if you get up early in the morning, if you are chanting 16 rounds, if you are attending Mangalarti every day, if you are taking prasadam every day, and if you are only working in the temple, associating devotees, you are a devotee. Otherwise you are not. This is somehow, this ignorance has creeped into people's mind. Neither in the Bhagavad Gita nor in the Srimad Bhagavatam these are accepted. Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam has only one thing to say. Adveshta sarva bhudanam, Bhagavad Gita's verses on a devotee. Adveshta sarva bhudanam, maitra karunayevacha aha, nirmamo nirahangara, sukha dukkha samakshami, sandushta satatam yogi, yadalma drida nishchayaha, mai arpidamano buddhir, yoma vibhakta same priyaha. So there in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has given a definition of a devotee. And that definition is exactly the same what Krishna is saying to Uddhava here in the Bhagavatam. There is practically no difference. So if we accept Krishna's words, who is a devotee, then we have to rethink about what is devotee means. Devotee status is. So in that verse, up to now, so Krishna is telling us various things, how one can become a devotee. How one can become a devotee. And nowhere you will find Krishna is talking about things what we consider as important. Krishna's importance is something different. So earlier Krishna has spoken about sadhana bhakti, isn't it? In the earlier chapter, Krishna spoke about sadhana bhakti, many things Krishna has spoken there. But sadhana bhakti is only a stage, you cannot live in that sadhana state forever. If this understanding of bhakti, what Krishna talks about in this 14th chapter, this is the bhakti Krishna is expecting from a devotee. Sadhana is only a way to start with. But if you get attached to sadhana alone and think that sadhana is the whole goal in life, then you have lost it. Then you are never going to come to this state. Because you will remain as a sadhaka all life. Sadhana will continue for the rest of the life. But that's why it says here that in this chapter, in the 14th chapter, when Krishna talks about bhakti, it is on a completely different level. So in the last verse, Krishna said that Nishkinjanama Yanurekta Chedasa, what we have seen now, Krishna says here now that forget about that level of devotee. Now let us look at a devotee who is not reached that state, who hasn't reached that state what Krishna has spoken in the last verse. That's what Krishna is going to discuss in the next verse. Badhyamano binal bhakto vishaye ajendriyaham praya pragadbhaya bhaktya vishayerna vibhuviyate. It's a very important verse. This is a very special reference to some special devotees. Very special devotees. Why it is like that? Badhyamano bimad bhakto vishaye ajendriyaham. Sometimes some devotees, what happens to them is, they have advanced very high in the bhakti stage. But some sense gratification is still disturbing them in their life. Some sense gratification is still there. They are a very special class of devotees. Not all. Many great devotees who have crossed beyond, left everything in this world, gone away, all desires have gone away, no possessions in this world, no false ego inside, no trace of any ego inside, completely attached to Krishna. That is one level of devotees. That is the higher class devotees. But then there are other also devotees. What's interesting about them is that they could not get over their senses completely. They cannot, completely they are not able to give up sense enjoyment. Still some attachment somewhere in their life. If that happens, what will happen to them? That's what Krishna is going to talk about. Badhyamano bimal bhakto vishaye ajidendriyehi. Badhyamano bimal bhakto. Krishna says here, unable to, they are affected by sense enjoyment. They are affected by sense enjoyment because they don't have that complete control on their senses. But they are great devotees. Very great devotees they are. But somehow or the other, there is still some attachment to some sense enjoyment. You will see this in all traditions, whether it is Ramanujacharya's, Madhvacharya's, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, all traditions you will find devotees, one or two like this, special devotees. And they are in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, you will read one or two personalities like this, who had a situation that they had very high state of realization, highly devotional, very, very devotional, but at the same time, some attachment somewhere in this world. When that happens, what should we do? Badhyamano bimal bhakto vishaye ajidendriyah. That they have, this talk about Krishna is saying here, that they because of the influence of that sense enjoyment, even though you cannot refer to them as the top class devotees, you can't serve them as top class because some of their activities will create some difficulty for ordinary people. They will say, oh, he is so advanced in spiritual life, but why is he doing this? This kind of situation will happen from them. So it is in that sense, he says here, Praya pragalbhaya bhaktya, such a person, because there is bhakti inside, that bhakti one day will wipe vishayen abhibhuyate. It will completely wipe out the little attachment they had for sense enjoyment. One day it will clear up and then they will go back to their pure spiritual position. They will get back to that state. Why Krishna says that is to tell us that if we are frightened that some sense gratification is going to pull us down, Krishna says no. The sense gratification, there is a fight, conflict going on inside between the sense gratification and self-realization. Eventually, self-realization will win. Sense gratification will lose. This is the point Krishna is making there. There are many, many examples of this. So many examples, known, unknown people. Known people, unknown people. Many people are well-known people like this who have been, and that is always a mystery in this world. When such devotees come, they are always a mystery. Because ordinary people, when we talk about a devotee, we will expect certain things from that devotee, isn't it? From that devotee, we'll expect certain behavior in this world and certain standard of morality and certain kind of activity from him. But it is not necessary. Why? Because in some people's case, this can always happen in this way. It can. That's what Krishna is saying here. Badhyamano vimal bhakto vishaye ajidendriyaha praya pragalbhaya bhaktya vishaye nabhibhuyate vishaye nabhibhuyate. So there it is the difficulties. Forget about the best devotees, but the middle class devotee, Krishna says here, he is attached to Krishna, and he is in the process of bhakti. And taking shelter of bhakti process, he is worshipping Krishna. And at the same time, even though all these things are happening, desires have not left him completely. Desires have not left him completely. So, therefore, this situation is quite common with the householder. Isn't it? Quite common with the householder. So, when you are talking about bhakti as a sadhana, all householders, this process suits. Because householder's situation is like that. Practically that is how it is, isn't it? We are talking about in the ideal householder, ideal sannyasi, ideal brahmachari, ideal vanaprastha. You have to see it like that. That just because that somebody has got a family, that doesn't mean he's a householder. That alone does not make him a householder. If you want to understand this, that the brahmachari and the sannyasi, they are in a state in this world that they have free from desire. They are supposed to have freedom from desires. That's why they are in that ashrama. Brahmachari ashrama or sannyasa ashrama. Freedom from desires. They have reached that state. A brahmachari remains as a brahmachari for what purpose? For not to get entangled in this world and to utilize this life for self-realization. They are more focused than a householder. Similarly, a sannyasi also is meant to live in this world in full knowledge and realization only for the benefit of the world, only for the benefit of the world. A sannyasi state is expected that. Those things are expected from a sannyasi. So they don't have a problem. For them, this process may not be totally, it's not important because they are free from sense gratification. But householder's case, because they are in the householder life, at the same time they want to come up in the spiritual life, they want to progress in the spiritual path. For them, there is this difficulty that some attachment to this world in the form of family life, wealth, home, and some comforts in this world. The attachment is already there in the householder life, isn't it? So even though that is there, Krishna is saying here, as a sadhana, if you approach this, then for them it is, Srimad Bhagavatam is saying that this process will suit them very much. Why? Because though when Krishna separates people, in the 20th chapter you will see, in the Bhagavatam, in the 20th chapter if you look, Krishna classifies people in 3 different categories, isn't it? Krishna says to Uddhava, while talking about Jnanam, Karma and Bhakti, in verse 6, Yogastrayo maya prota nranam shrayo mithil sayaha Jnanam karmam bhaktischa nopayo anyosti kutrachet. He says these 3 yoga systems, Jnanam, Karmam, Bhakti, these 3 yoga systems, Yogastrayo maya protam, I have spoken about these 3 processes of yoga system in the Shastram, Shreyo Vidilsaya, for the benefit of the human society, which are the Jnanam, Karmam, cha Bhaktischa. Verse 6 in chapter 20. Jnanam, Karmam, cha Bhaktischa. Jnanam, Karmam and Bhakti. These are the 3 processes, 3 yoga systems I have spoken in the Bhagavad Gita as well as in the Srimad Bhagavatam. These 3 yoga systems. Krishna says, Jnanam, Karmamscha, Bhaktischa, no upayam anyosti kutrachit. Except these 3, there is no other way. There also Krishna says very categorically, except these 3 processes, Jnanam, Karmamscha, Bhaktischa, no upayam anyastra, no upayam, no upayo anyosti kutrachit. There is no other upayam, there is no other way. Krishna says, no upayo anyosti kutrachit. There is no other way, Krishna says. So, it is here that you have to accept that whatever that is spoken in the Bhagavad Gita, in terms of Jnanam Karmascha Bhaktischa, no upayo anyasti kutrachi, there is no other way you can come out of this material life, the self-realization. So this is an important statement. And then in the next 2 verses, Krishna says, who is qualified for what? That's the next 2 verses. Narvinnanam jnana yogo jnasinam iha karmasu tesha narvinna chittanam karma yogastu kaminam. Jnani and karma yogi is talking about. Narvinnanam jnana yogo. Jnanam is meant for, Krishna says, nirvinatvam. Nirvinatvam means complete detachment from this world in all levels. Totally detached to this material life from all angles. No attachment whatsoever in this world. Nirvinnanam jnana yogo jnasinam iha karmasu. And one who has come to that state that they have jnasinam iha karmasu, because they have come to that platform of vairagyam, renunciation in this world, they have no attraction for any action in this world. No attraction for anything in this world. They are not attracted by anything. That is the interesting aspect of Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is for those people who have understood that self-realization alone is worthwhile in this world, nothing else. Even if you offer them billions of pounds, they will say, no, I'm interested in self-realization. That's it. Completely distraction from this, no attachment to this world, no attraction to this world. Therefore, Nyasinam iha karmasu. They have completely thrown away all karma in this world. And tesha nirvinna chittanam karma yogastu kaminam. On the other hand, Krishna talks about those to whom karma yoga will suit. Who tesham nirvinna chittanam karma yogastu kaminam. Suppose somebody has a lot of desire inside. Some people are like that, isn't it? They want to make a lot of money and have a big position in this world, a lot of fame, looking for a lot of fame in this world. If all these things are there, desires are there inside, Krishna says for him karma yoga will work. So everyone, it's not that one process for all. It will not work because inside each one of us are different. Therefore Krishna says, Nirvinnanam jnana yogo Nyasinam iha karmasu tesha nirvinna chittanam karma yogastu kaminam. Karma yogastu kaminam. So karma yogam, jnana yogam, bhakti yogam. Three processes Krishna has spoken there. And Krishna says there, jnana yogam is for those who are completely detached from this world, total vairagyam from this world, no attraction for anything in this world. If they come to that state, jnana yogam will suit that person. You will see all this in the world. People with that renunciation and detachment from this world. People who have completely lost interest in this world. Shavanda Motra Purishaval Tyajyaha. This is how the Jnanis talk about that people. Shavanda Motra Purishaval Tyajyaha. In other words, they see any happiness what ordinary people talk about as though it is the greatest happiness in this world. They consider it as the stool from the hawk's stool. That is how they see it. What we consider as great happiness in this world, or what we try to enjoy in this world, from their viewpoint, they consider it as the stool of the hawk. That is the way they see that. That happiness, what we are talking about as happiness. So that is jnani state. On the other hand, there are people right across the board, the opposite side. Totally opposite to the jnani state. Completely attached to everything, wants everything in this world, all happiness, enjoyment, everything. Krishna says they can also come to spiritual life, provided they follow the process of Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is meant for that. So on the one side, jnani, and the other side is the karmi. And in the middle of that is the householder and the bhakti. Bhakti and the householder is in the middle. He is sometimes this side, he is sometimes that side. Always oscillating between this side and that side. That's why Krishna says in the next verse. If you look at there, Yadrchaya Melkathado Jada Shraddhastu Yappuman Nanarvinno Nadisakto Bhakti Yogosya Siddhida. Krishna says, Yadrchaya Melkathado. It is talking about a devotee. A devotee, he has no such intense desire for self-realization. He is very much absorbed in the body, thinking that I am this body and let me live peacefully in this world without causing any trouble to anyone. But at the same time, sometimes he is thinking, what's the point in working in this world so hard? Is there any benefit at the end? So both sides. Sometimes he is also feeling that unless I have something in this world, how can I manage? This is the devotee situation, isn't it? So he is always thinking like that. And he is not able to make up his mind what he wants in life. That sometimes he will say, at least I should be comfortable. After 60 years, after retirement, I'll start my spiritual life. These are the people who talk like that. After 60, they start, 60 plus. So, Yadrchaya Melkathaso. Krishna says, even they have a choice, hope. What's that hope? If they come and hear about Krishna, sometimes they will get attracted. That depends based on the vasanas inside. Yadrchaya Melkathado. When they hear about Krishna, Madhkadhado means not only Krishna's pastimes, also refers to this philosophy Krishna, what Krishna has spoken to Uddhava. That is what attracts people, isn't it? Sometimes people get attracted to Krishna's pastimes, but often people get attracted to Krishna's philosophy, the convincing and the logic behind it. So, Yadrchaya Melkadhado. if somehow or the other they get attracted to that, Jada Shraddhastuya Puman, and he becomes serious about it, Shraddha, he develops Shraddha in that, Na Narvino Na Disato. On the one hand, he is not totally renounced everything. He still likes to have his home, he likes to have his family life, he likes to have his little bit of material possessions in this world. So he is not Nirvana like a Jnani. Na Nirvana. On the other hand, he also knows very well one day he has to leave everything here and go from here. He is also aware of that. So, Na Nirvana Na Disatto. For them, Bhakti Yoga goes to Siddhida. Krishna says Bhakti Yoga will suit those people. This is Krishna's opinion on the three different yoga systems. This is a very important statement in the Bhagavatam because it is through these verses you can see what suits whom. What suits whom. But majority of the people, because as Krishna said before, they belong to this category, Bhakti Yoga. Majority of the people will be there. Therefore, Bhakti Yoga will always be popular. Because majority belongs to this group, isn't it? Majority belongs to Bhakti Yoga to Siddhidam. They don't have a very deep attachment for sense enjoyment. At the same time, they are not completely detached from this world. For them, Bhakti Yoga will work. So, what should they do? What should they do? That is what this question comes in this verse, isn't it? Vadhyamanopi madbhakto vishaye ajidendriya. In that verse 18, Krishna says here that occasionally, now and then, sense gratification will affect them. They'll get attracted to some sense enjoyment. They'll get attracted to some sense enjoyment will come to their heart. So, because often you will see this in devotees' life also, that although they will hear Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita and all, somewhere indeed they want to go on a holiday for a few days somewhere and enjoy a little bit, a few days, away from all this, away from spiritual life also. So what is that? Because that vasana inside is still there to have some attachment inside is still there. In some form or the other it will come out, either go on a holiday or to buy something what he likes or want to enjoy something, and this desire will come back. So that's why Krishna says there that the question may come, if it is like that, will that devotee's heart, will the devotee's mind, will they not start getting disturbed over that? This is what the question is, isn't it? Because whenever that desire comes for enjoyment, in any way, whichever way it is, that desire for enjoyment will take in different forms. It will start appearing in front of us and it can disturb the mind. But what Krishna points out here is that Bhadhyamanopi madbhakta vishaye ajivendriya. A devotee may not give up everything. What he does is, he hands over everything to Krishna. He surrenders his senses to Krishna. Remember, as last Sunday we talked about this, that out of all the upadhi we have, upadhi means gross body, mind, intelligence, senses, false ego. These are all upadhis on us. Upadhi. That's the word for that, upadhi. Upadhi means they limit us. By nature, spirit soul is independent. Completely independent, isn't it? It's not bound by anything in this world. It's pure consciousness. Bodham, avadam. But as soon as we are caged in a body, we are limited. Limited by the gross body, limited by the mind, limited by the intelligence, limited by the ego. Everything is limiting us. So this limitation is called upadhi. What upadhi does is, it limits us to a particular place, isn't it? As soon as you have gross body, you are limited to one place. As soon as you have a material mind, you are limited to certain thoughts. What comes according to your vasanas inside, that thoughts will develop inside. So mind is limiting you. Body is limiting you, the mind is limiting you. Intelligence also limits you. Because depending on your intellectual level, whatever intelligence we have, accordingly only you can think in this world. you can act in this world, isn't it? Suppose our intellectual capacity is not so good. In that case, we may not understand the higher values of life, even if it's spoken. So, intelligence also limits you. Above all these things, ego limits us more than anything else. The ego. Ego puts us in an awkward situation that something is telling us we are something very important in this world. This is what ego does to us, isn't it? Makes us think that I am somebody in this world. I am somebody in this world. I may be nobody, but I am somebody as far as I am concerned. This conviction inside is what ego does. And unlike the mind intelligence and the gross body, this ego is something which you try to control, it will pop up somewhere else, in some other form. It will come out again and start creating more trouble inside. That's why in the Bhagavad Gita, if you remember, we talked about this last Sunday, those 2 verses where Krishna is talking about, that this ego, Ahangaram, Balandarpam, what Krishna says there, those 2 verses in the Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna says there, that Arjuna, he says to Arjuna, this demoniac nature, that's what we are talking about, isn't it? In the demoniac nature, if you look at that verses, divine and the demoniac nature, that is the verse, verse 13 to 15. In 3 verses, Krishna spoke about a person who has ego inside. And if you read those verses, we talked about this last Sunday. If you are reading it, you will remember. If you are not reading, you won't remember. So, idam adyamaya labdham imam prapsye manoratham idam asti idam bhavishyati punardhanam asau maya hano shatru hanishye chaparanabi ishwaroham bhogi siddhoham balavan sukhi adhyobi anyavanasmi konyosti sadrisho maya yakshedasya vimodishya ityajnana vimohida. In 3 simple verses, Krishna has spoken about that false ego, how it works. He says here, demonic person, here addresses as demonic person, thinks, so much wealth do I have today and I will gain more according to my scheme. So much is mine now and it will increase in the future. More and more, he is my enemy and I have killed him. And my other enemy will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything, I am the enjoyer, I am perfect, powerful and happy. I am the richest man, surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices, I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. So this is what the ego is. Ego does. So Krishna says that this ego will create a lot of problems in one's spiritual life. This ego everybody has. And that is there in spiritual life also, it will cause a lot of problems. And Krishna also said that the only way to come out of that egoic state is to hand over that ego to Krishna. How do you hand over the ego to Krishna? Just like you hand over your body, you hand over your mind, you hand over your intelligence, Krishna says hand over the ego also to Krishna. Just like the way Hanuman did, or just like the way Arjuna did. Isn't it? By doing, always surrendering to Krishna and thinking I am Krishna's servant, that is also an ego, no question about that. It's also an ego. Hanuman always used to claim that I am Ramchandra's servant. It's an ego in Hanuman. But this ego is controlled ego. It is not a bad ego. It is a good ego because he has surrendered his ego to Ramachandra. He has surrendered his ego to Ramachandra. Therefore, that ego will not cause any damage to him, will not harm him, will not create any problem for him. The other ego, what Krishna has spoken in the Bhagavad Gita, that's very troublesome. That creates a lot of problems. So a devotee, he surrenders the body he surrenders the mind, he surrenders the intelligence, and he surrenders his ego also to Krishna. That is how, and this process, so what actually happens is that apart from everything, of course, surrender on a higher level means surrendering everything. Not only body, mind, intelligence, ego, but including all his possessions in this world, family, and everything what one has got, one has to surrender to Krishna. And what he does is, it's not physically he is surrendering it, but actually he gets out of this Brahman. Brahman means this misconception that everything is mine. He comes out of that misconception that it's all mine. In other words, whatever Krishna has given him in this world, he lives in this world with the understanding that it is Krishna's wealth. It is Krishna's family, it's Krishna's property, everything belongs to Krishna. Ishavasimidam sarvam. That's what it means. Ishavasimidam sarvam. So one who has achieved that state, this is what Krishna is saying here, offering everything to Krishna, and this is called Bhagavata Dharma. Bhagavata Dharma is not different than that. So, very simple process. Everything has been offered to Krishna. The mind, the body, the family, the wealth, everything. But you can talk about this, all these things. We can talk about this, all these things. We will still think how to do it. Isn't it? All these things are there. Krishna is only telling us how to develop bhakti inside. That is the secret. That's what Krishna is pointing out to us. Look, these are the ways you can get there, to that state what Krishna has spoken in the earlier verse. That's what this is all about. So here, after saying that Badhyamanomi Badbhakto Vishay Ajivendriyaha Praya Pragalbhaya Bhaktya Vishayir Nabhibhuyade. Krishna has made a statement. Now Krishna has to qualify that statement, isn't it? If you are in that state, how do you get to the other state where Krishna spoke, one is free from all desire, Nishkinjananam and Rakta Chittaha, Mahando, Akhila Jiva Valsalaha. That is perfectional state. How do you come to that state from this state? So Krishna has to qualify that. That is what Krishna is saying here. Praya Pragalbhaya Bhaktya Vishayir Nabhi Bhuyate. Bhakti on its own is powerful enough that to pull him out of that attachment to the sense enjoyment, Krishna is saying here. Praya Pragalbhaya Bhaktya Vishayir Nabhi Bhuyate. So in order to do that, if one is in this situation, suppose one is in this situation, which one? Bhadhyamanobi Madbhakto. All these verses you have to keep reading, thinking about it. Otherwise it will simply remain as, it's not like an instruction to us. That you have to remember. It's not an instruction. What is spoken here is, Krishna is giving us some understanding to cultivate bhakti, proper bhakti inside. What are the problems we are likely to have in that process? Body, mind, intelligence, senses, ego. All are blocks for us to come to our identity of the soul, to realize the truth. So Krishna tells us that devotees are in this category, different categories. The top class devotee is like this, he spoke to us about it. Nishkinjanamaya Anurakta Charasa, verse 18 I think, verse 17, he spoke about that. Then immediately after that, Krishna says to us in the 18th verse, there are devotees very, very much attached to me, but they have a little problem that they have some attachment for happiness in this world. Happiness in this world. Still there is something that they are unable to give up in this world. Unable to give up in this world. If a person in that state, and which is quite common, particularly Krishna is referring to householders here. Particularly referring to householders who are not sannyasis or who are not brahmacharis. Not sannyasis. When we say, remember this, that sannyasi and brahmachari is not in the strict sense what we see in the modern world. Krishna's definition of sannyasi and brahmachari in the Bhagavatam is quite different from what we see in this modern scenario. What you find is completely different. So anyway, in the householder life, this possibility is there that there is attachment. At the same time, there are many great householder devotees. Particularly you can see the example Sudama himself. He was a householder, he was not a sannyasi, was he? He was a householder. But Sukadeva Goswami, such a renunciate, who is so renounced in this world, he found Sudama to be mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Isn't it? So from there you can see, so he was not looking whether he was a sannyasi or householder. what was the state of devotion. That is what Sukadeva Goswami was concerned about. You can see that, isn't it? That he took notice of Sudama's devotion, not whether he's a sannyasi or a householder. That's not what was important for him. Prashantalma jidendriyaha. About Sudama he says, Prashantalma, totally peaceful, jidendriya, complete control of the senses, and completely renounced from this world. And that is, Sukadeva Goswami calls a sannyasam, not the dress, not the external dress. We are completely caught up in this modern understanding of sannyasam based on the cloth and based on the externalities. And that is very misleading sometimes because we miss the point what Krishna is talking about here. And here, again, he says here, Krishna says here that sometimes, even though we understand all these things, it becomes difficult to give up certain things. Krishna knows our problem very well, that our attachment is so deep inside that we want to come out from the attachment but unable to do it. When that happens, what should one do? And that is what Krishna said. Krishna says, Yadyadishtadamam loge yachadi priyamalpana tattan nivedayan mahyam tadanandaya kalpade. It's a famous verse in the Bhagavatam. Earlier, this was spoken earlier. This is the problem. In the Bhagavatam you will find so many things here, there, at different places, all connected to each other. That verse you will see, I think probably in the chapter 10 or so, that when Krishna was talking about bhakti, at one point Krishna says to Uddhava, it is like this, Yadyadishtadamam loge yachadi priyamalpana tattan nivedayan mahyam tadanandhyaya kalpade. That is, it is verse 41 in chapter 11, where Krishna was talking about, Krishna was talking about people who are attached in this world and those who are free from the attachment and devotee. Their nature, Krishna was discussing. So Krishna gave us a clue there that what you should do if you are in a situation like that. That is that verse. Yadyadishtadamam loge yachadi priyamalpana tattan nivedayan mahyam tadanandaya kalpade. It's a famous statement from Krishna. Krishna is saying that if you find it difficult to give up any attachment in this world, first find out what you are attached to in this world. If ever different people have different attachment, isn't it? Some different people have different attachment. If you ask somebody, what are you attached, they'll say, I am not attached to anything. But they are attached to everything in this world. Some people are like that. We are all in that category. We'll say, I don't want this, I want everything. I want everything in this world. So that is where this problem. So Krishna says there, among all the things what you are attached to, find out which one you are most attached to. Which one you are most attached to. And find out that and hand it over to me, Krishna says. Yadyadishtaramam loge. In this world, so many things you are attached to. Yachadi priyamalpana. Out of that, something, one particular one or two things, you are very attached to out of that. Isn't it? Some people, it's the car they are very attached to. Isn't it? They'll always be playing with the car, washing, cleaning, fixing it this way, that way. Keep an eye on their own car. All the time they'll be worried, thinking about the car. They're attached to that car. Or someone else is attached to something, the gold. Like their gold, amount of gold at home or in the lockers, bank deposits or whatever. Some people like the money in the bank account, a lot of money in the bank account. So different attachments, isn't it? That is there in everyone, in some form or the other. And so attachment is very subtle and that is very difficult to pinpoint easily. But Krishna is saying to us, Yadyadishtadamam loge echadi premalpana. Look at all where you are attached in this world and from that pick up those ones which you are very attached to. Tattan nivedayan mahyam tadanandaya kalpade. And learn how to hand that over to me. Krishna says your attachment will go. This is the only way. There is no other way. Otherwise, our bhakti will continue like this. On the one side, all attachment to this world, and on the other side, we will be asking Krishna to increase our attachment, to help our attachment to increase. This is what will turn out at the end. That all our desires will come out, and we will expect Krishna to help us in fulfilling all our desire. This is how bhakti takes in a different route at that time. So Krishna says here, that thing which is, normally what do? If we have something to give, the best things what we like we keep to ourselves. And what we don't like, we hand over to somebody else. We give it to others. You can have that, he said. Isn't it? That is our mood. Krishna's advice is, what you like the best, give it to me. And what you don't like, you keep to yourself. The other way. Yadyad ishtadamam loge, whatever you like in this world, and out of that, echadi priyamalpana, whatever you love so much among that, in that different objects in this world, tatan nivedayan mahyam, hand it over to me. If you do that, Krishna says, tadanandaya kalpade, you will reach that state of blissful state of Krishna consciousness, you will experience that. This is Krishna's advice to us. So, these verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam, this has been applied by people. It's not that they just came and heard and gone and forgotten about it. That's not. There are personalities who studied Ekadasha Skandam and people who have come from very, very rich, aristocratic and highly learned background, but they were devotees. And they were such devotees that when they read Srimad Bhagavatam and after hearing these verses from Krishna, they have applied that in their life. And they found at some point that Ekadasha Skandam is 100% the truth. They have written that about it at some time later in their life. They vouch for that. Whatever Krishna has spoken, they have taken it wholeheartedly, applied it in their own life, and they found that this is 100% truth. Some very, very people from very highly learned background and wealthy background, and they had everything in their life, but they were devotees attached to Ekadasham, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. And seeing this message in the Ekadasha Skandam, they got attracted to it and they practiced spiritual life very seriously. And in that process, they strictly adhered or they strictly complied with these instructions what Krishna has given. That is the potency of these verses. You won't find this even in Upanishads, these verses, like this, the way it's spoken here. So, using those verses, you will find in all commentators of Srimad Bhagavatam, when they come to this part in the Bhagavatam, it is all their life. That is how they left this world. Almost all the major commentators of Srimad Bhagavatam, who is respected today in this world for their commentaries on Bhagavatam, whether it is Sanatana Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Sri Rajarya Swamiji, Viragavacharya, or any of them, they were all people who have taken all these things in their life and they have perfected it. That was their success. They have perfected it. They just didn't hear and leave it. They took it and perfected it. That means day after day they read this and this was their life. This was their life. Yadyad ishtadamam loge yachadi priyamalpana tatan nivedayan mahyam tadanandyaya kalpade. If you read, I remember that verse. Whenever there is attachment anywhere, if you see where the attachment is, and wherever most of the attachment is, Krishna says, hand it over to me. You will get out of that problem, attachment. Krishna doesn't want any of this, but Krishna says that's the only way you can escape from this problem. Otherwise, this attachment is the cause of everything, isn't it? Attachment is the cause of desire, agraham or asha. All these things coming from where? From attachment. And desire turns into action. Desire is the cause of action. And action is the cause of bondage, karma. Karma creates bondage in this world. So it is a cycle, the karmic cycle begins like this. From attachment begins everything, ragam, attachment. From ragam comes desire, and desire turns into action, action turns into bondage. So karma bandhanam happens from that. So if we want to free ourselves from this cycle, Krishna says there is only one way. Yadyad ishtadamam loge yachadi priyamalpana tattan nivedayan mahyam tadan sadanandyaya kalpade. You can see this principle was even practiced in household life in the past. In the past, it was followed very strictly. So to see everyone Krishna's present and treating them in that way, that was expected. In the olden days, when householder will take food only after offering to the guests who come to the house, and particularly brahmacharis and sannyasis, if they come for bhiksha, many in the past that was the system, that is gone now. And now all the householders, I don't know sannyasis whether they have also started eating in the restaurant. Otherwise everybody goes to restaurant now, pay the bill, you don't have to cook, saved all the trouble. So this is today. So it is very difficult to explain these things. But there was a time in the history when Varnashram Dharma existed in the proper way, that people never ate outside but always considered their duty to feed others. To feed others. That feeding in the sense that brahmacharis used to come for bhiksha. They will be fed first. Or if sannyasis come for bhiksha, only after that the householder will take his food. This was the system. Existed for a very, very, very long time. Unfortunately, it has all gone now. So that's what Krishna says here, that in the past when there was Vedic institutions where they taught children in studying Vedas, Veda Bhattachala they call it, in that schools when they were taught, those children, they didn't have any wealth. They had to be maintained by somebody. So naturally, while studying the Vedas in the school or in the Gurukulam with the teacher had nothing to offer. They were poor. Students were poor. So only shelter they had was the householder. So lunchtime they'll come out from their studies and come and ask for food from the householder. Only after they have come and taken the food, the householders will eat. Before that they won't even eat the food. So advanced were those householders that they could maintain that discipline for a very long time. This was the ancient times. But now that's gone now, it's a different world. So anyway, so that principle, that what Krishna says here, that not only the brahmacharis and sannyasis, householder is supposed to feed even the crows, cats, dogs, and even if there is a snake, he should be fed. Who says this? Sri Narada Maharshi says this about the duties of a householder. If you want, you can look at it in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. If you see there, you will see what he says. He says here that a householder should not take food before he has fed all these personalities in the house. So, what he says here, that he says that Yudhishthira asked this question to Sri Narada Maharshi. What is the proper way a householder should lead his life? If you read that chapter, 13th and 14th chapter, 14th or 15th chapter, 2 chapters I think, there is, 14th and 15th chapter, then we'll know where we stand in the householder life. So Yudhishthira asks this question that I am a householder, Yudhishthira says to Narada Maharshi, and says to him, how will I develop devotion like Prahlada had? You know that Yudhishthira had a great love for Prahlada. Among all the devotees in Srimad Bhagavatam, the devotee whom Yudhishthira favored most was Prahlada. That's very explicitly mentioned there. That somehow or the other, Yudhishthira always thought Prahlada as the perfect devotee. He has accepted that in that way. That is why when Parikshit Maharaj was born, the astrologers came and said to Yudhishthira that about future of Parikshit. They were talking about the future of Parikshit. And they were saying there that this Parikshit, Prahladascha asagraham, he will be like Prahlada as a devotee. Yudhishthira was totally satisfied. He didn't want to hear anything more. But Yudhishthira knew that Parikshit will one day, he will be bitten by the snake, he is going to die, and he will, his son Janamejaya was going to perform the sacrifice, snake sacrifice. All these things were known to Yudhishthira at that time. He didn't do anything about it. As soon as he heard that Parikshit will be a devotee like Prahlada, Yudhishthira was totally satisfied. He didn't want to know anything more than that. That's all what he wanted to hear from the astrologers. Astrologers came and told he will be a hero like Arjuna, he will be heroic in his battle, and he will be so many different personalities were compared to Parikshit and said Parikshit will have all these great qualities, he said. But he was not interested in all that. All he wanted to hear was he will be like devotee like Prahlada. He said like that. So when in 7th canto, this is important thing, when he heard 7th canto, the 7th canto was spoken by Srinarada Maharshi. I mentioned that before. Narada Maharshi spoke 7th canto because after talking the 6th canto, Ajamila story was spoken. Vedavyasa Maharshi fell into a very transcendental state. He could not further talk because so much emotions inside, thinking about Krishna's mercy he has shown to Ajamila, and he could not talk further. It was so that's why at that point Narada Maharshi came over and spoke Srimad Bhagavatam to Yudhishthira at that time. That is a discussion about Prahlada, one reason. Second reason, Narada Maharshi felt, as far as talking about Prahlada is concerned, I am the right person to talk about Prahlada. Why? Prahlada is his direct disciple, isn't it? A personality among all disciples Narada Maharshi had. In Bhagavatam you will see a lot of disciples Narada Maharshi had from different backgrounds, isn't it? Dhruva was his disciple, Prahlada was his disciple, and there are Shabalashva, Haryashva, they all took instructions from, Prajina Barhis took instructions from Narada Maharshi. Many people took, Daksha also took instructions from Narada Maharshi. Many took from Narada Maharshi. But there is only one person who has beaten all, and that is Prahlada. And because it's like that, when it came to 7th canto, Srinarada Maharshi thought, I should talk about Prahlada because otherwise it won't come out very well, the way he wanted. Vedavyasa Maharshi will not understand if I talk about Prahlada, and so he himself personally spoke about Prahlada to Yudhishthira, who was asking the questions. So when he talked about Prahlada, and after hearing about Prahlada's devotion, Yudhishthira started thinking, how will I get that state of devotion like Prahlada had? That question came up in Yudhishthira's heart, and he wanted to know how this will happen. And in response to that, in 4 chapters in the 7th canto, Srinarada Maharshi spoke about Varnashrama Dharma. That is the beginning of that thing, what will take you to that state. And that is how this discussion happened. So while discussing that, in the first 2 chapters, where Narada Maharshi spoke about Brahmachari and Sannyasi, he didn't talk about householder at all. He never spoke about householder. So when he spoke like that, Yudhishthira Maharaj started doubting. Is it that only Brahmachari and Sannyasi has some hope in this life? Householders have no hope at all. This is what came to his mind. Because when Srinarada Maharshi spoke about Brahmachari ashram and Sannyasa ashram, he said if they follow these rules strictly and they live this life according to what he has spoken, the possibility is that they will not come back again to this material world. Both the Brahmachari and Sannyasi. He said that. After saying that, then when he heard that Yudhishthira got this doubt, if it is like that, there is no hope for the householder. This question came up. At that time, he wanted to answer. He told what a householder should be in this world. And that is why the last 2 chapters you will see there is spoken about the householder. Spoken about the householder. That is why in the 7th canto, you will notice there that while talking about the householder life, he says there that a householder, he says here, Mrugoshthagaramarkhahu sarisprukkhagamakshikaha almana putravat pashe kailesham andaram kiyan yavat brede jadaram taval sattvam hidehinam adhyam yobhimanyena sasteno dandamahadi. All talking about householder. He says, Yavat Priyade Jadharam Taval Sattvam Hi Dehinam. A householder is only supposed to accept and live in this world with what is necessary to maintain this body. We have misconception that householder means that's the only time we can make money, isn't it? That's our concept of householder life. household life, that is because we have rejected Varnashrama Dharmam, we have fallen into this trap. That household life is only to make money. But Krishna's point is here, Naradashi is saying here, Yavat Briyate Jadharam Taval Satvam Hi Dehinam. A householder is not supposed to, as much as he has enough to eat in this world, sufficient to Yavat Briyate Jadharam. And that much only he has to accept in this world. If he tries to acquire more than that, Adhiyam Yobhimanyeda Sasteno Dandamahadi. He is a thief. If he is trying to acquire more than that, he should be beaten. That is Vinarada Maharshi's verdict on that. And then he says here, Mrigroshram Kharam Arkha Kusari Srup Khagamakshigaham Alpana Putravat Pashim Tairesha Andaram Kiyat. He says here, the deer, camel, donkey, monkey, rats, snakes, birds, and all the flies, even them, a householder has to think of them as his own children. As his own children. Otherwise, he is asking the question, Atmavat Putravat Pashe Tairesham Andaram Kiyat. What is the difference between one's own children and these other living entities? That's the question Siddhartha Maharshi is asking. So in other words, this is the standard of household life, what Srimad Maharshi has spoken in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore, in the 7th canto we say this is called Vaishudeva. Vaishudeva means this. Brahmanas have to perform Vaishudeva. Vaishudeva is a part of their life. And Vaishudeva means all this. Vaishudeva means to give to all other living entities food for their sustenance, maintenance in this world. So therefore, the householders in those days will pray for the brahmacharis to come to the house. That's how they were. So magnanimous and so deeper in their understanding. So much faith they had in the Krishna consciousness that they will pray to the brahmacharis to come to the house to accept bhiksha. So, and giving to them that way, they practice this sacrifice. So, and this is after giving to them whatever that is left, they will eat that. Tena tektvena bhujjida. This is what it is. Ishavasamidam sarvam et kinja jagatyam jagat. Tena tektvena bhujjida. This is what it is. Tena tektvena bhujjida means giving to others, and after that what is left over, satisfied with that. It says sadhanam. And Krishna says here, Vadhyamano himad bhaktaha vishaye ajitendriyaha. So even if he is bound by sense enjoyment, sense gratification, that devotion inside him, which is more powerful than his sense enjoyment. The bhakti inside, praya pragalbhaya bhaktiya. He says here, praya pragalbhaya bhaktiya. And what happens in the sense enjoyment, the mind gets disturbed. Isn't it? The mind gets disturbed in sense enjoyment. And you will see this in practical life of devotees. Practical life of devotees. Only then you will understand there are many, many devotees who have gone through this in their life. You have to know their history and in detail. Only then you will notice this, what they were going through in their life. Great devotees, great devotion they had. But on the other hand, senses were giving trouble. Senses were giving trouble. And that is why sometimes in bhakti process, we have to recognize all these things. When we see that some devotees, when they get in that state, we are not supposed to think that they have fallen away from bhakti process. It's not that they have lost the bhakti in them. Bhakti is still there. But on the other hand, sense gratification is also dragging them in another way. In the Shaiva tradition, because we'll talk about a few devotees, a few examples, so that you will understand how this whole thing happens in life, in their devotional life. Probably you have heard, like we have Alvars in the Vaishnava tradition, Alvars, famous Alvars in Ramanuja's time. We had the Alvars. There were great devotees in Alvars, many of them had this kind of situation. Similarly, in the Shaiva tradition also, there were Nayanmars were there. There were 63 famous Nayanmars. But all of them, Appar, Sambandar, Sundarinar, Manikyavashaka, they were famous. They were famous among these four among the 63 Nayanmars.
So these four, all four of them highly devoted to Lord Shiva. Highly devoted to Lord Shiva. It doesn't matter whether it is towards Shiva or Vishnu or Krishna, whatever it is. Bhakti is Bhakti. Bhakti has its own way of grooming people. Bhakti takes people in a different level altogether. When realization happens, they see the truth. And when they see the truth, there is no difference in all these things. But because they were attached to Shiva, worshipping Shiva as devotees, they were attached to Shiva. Sundaramurti is one exception to all others. Or if you go and see in the temples, they still have deities of all these great devotees. Sundaramurti alone is a very special example, special devotee. He is decorated with a crown and with all gold jewelry, first class clothes, everything, sits on a throne, and is a great devotee. Whereas all others were poor and totally, completely given up all attachment to this world, simple dhoti, and all over the body they had no decoration, they had no shirt or anything like that, just only a dhoti and full of the marks on their body of their deity whom they have been worshipping. So why this personality alone was different? Sundaramurti. Sundaramurti's life is very, very interesting. If you hear the whole life of Sundaramurti Nayana, you will immediately understand this verse, what Krishna is talking about. Vadhyamanavi margatto vishaye ajnendriya praya pragalbhaya bhatya vishayer navi bhuyate. If you understand, hear the story of Sundaramurti, Sundaramurti is the perfect example. There are many others, don't think that he is the only one. There are so many others in all traditions, devotees like this. And if you know in depth, you will read somewhere about their lifestyle, you will find they are exceptional. They are exceptional people. They are not the ordinary devotee whom we will look up to because of their specific character. Sundaramurti Nayana was, if you look at his words, you will see all these things happening in him. Great devotee, but Lord Shiva was behind him, walking behind him all the time. He says here, occasionally, quite often, he will get little desires in this world. Some desires will come to him. In other words, what he says here, all due to the vasana from previous life. Vasanas from previous life. Some people say that he was an associate of Lord Shiva in Kailasam. Somehow due to some, can't say offences, some attachment that developed there, he had to come to this world. That is spoken about him. That we don't know because we cannot verify these things, isn't it? But whatever it is, he has come to this world. And when he had come to this world, Sundaramurti's story is like this. He says here that, that the reason for him to come here, because you may wonder sometimes how such devotees had to come to this material world along with us to live here among us. When you see their devotion, when you see their attachment and their realizations, they are out of this world. Absolutely no connection here. But when they are here, suddenly they get attraction somewhere and you start wondering how these two things can go together in one person. On the one hand, such extreme devotion to Shiva, and on the other hand, some unusual attachment in a bodily level to somebody else. So Sundaramurti was like that. He was born in therefore, because some attachment developed towards women in his previous lifetime, he had to accept a body in this world. He came here. So he was born in a Brahmana family, Shivacharyas they call. He was born in that family, and at the same time, for some reason, the local chief, you can say the local king or the feudal king, whatever he is, a local king who looked after a few villages, who was in charge there. He had no children and he took him, adopted him as his son. Adopted him as a son. And the interesting thing here is, Sundaramurti left this world at the age of 20. At the age of 20 he left this world. And in a few years' time, the things what has happened in this world clearly show to us that he is a devotee belonging to this category, what Krishna is talking about. Vadhyamana vimalbhakta, Vishaya Ajnendriya. Sundaramurti comes here at the age of 16. Sundaramurti's marriage was arranged. Normally, if you ask in the Brahmana family background, the marriage will be very simple. Marriages In Brahmana, they don't spend a lot of money like the way others do in this world for marriages. For us, it's a flashing money, isn't it? As much money as possible. That's the only opportunity to flash the money and show to the world how much money I spent on marriage. But among the Brahmana nature is such that their marriages are simple. Although there will be a lot of ritualism in there, the amount of money and all the opulences they don't have to spend for the marriages, the simple marriages they perform. So in an usual way, Sundaramurti should have had a marriage like that, because he was born in the Brahmana family, isn't it? But due to this adoption of this local king, he has become to the family of the rulers who are ruling that area. And naturally he was an adopted child, he was the only child of that family. They wanted to perform his marriage in a very opulent way. Very opulent way. So at the age of 16, them days the marriage age was like that. 16 they got married. Now it is 35 or 40 or something, isn't it? So it's much later then. So things are so different than now. So he got married, his marriage was arranged, and all in a very opulent way, everything was organized. And Sundaramurti was dressed up like a prince with all the attire. Like we say in the modern marriages, people have so much clothes are purchased, isn't it, for the marriages, and to be dressed the best dress of the life on that day. He put on all that, and he was in the marriage pandal, or whatever they call it, the marquee, whatever that was. He was there, and the fire sacrifice was going on. A lot of Brahmana priests were standing there. They were performing, the sacrifice was continuing, and Sundaramurti was preparing for the ceremony to complete, and everything was organized so well. And because it was from the royal, it was like a royal wedding happening. There were so many people who were present there, invited guests. And in them days, there was no invitation. You have to remember that. What they used to do, everybody is invited. Only difference is a certain class of people is fed in one place, certain class of people fed in another place. That was the system. Nowadays people find it difficult. Everywhere you go, only invited people, they'll put a notice outside. Others you can go wherever you are not welcome here. So that's why nowadays it's so strange, all these things when you see. And we think that we are doing a very great job. But from the eyes of Srimad Bhagavatam, if you are performing any sacrifice and if you are not feeding, not only everybody who comes, even the cats and the ducks and the dogs have to be fed on that day. That is the principle. And that is what is expected from a householder, according to Srimad Bhagavatam. That's all I can say. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, that is what is expected. But we say we follow Srimad Bhagavatam, but what we do is what suits us. Isn't it? So this is the thing, that Sundaramurti's marriage was such, everybody was present there. That means the whole villages, people were present there, because they all knew that they were going to be fed very well. And they could afford feeding everybody. Nowadays you have to calculate everything, isn't it? But that was the system. So Sundaramurti came for the marriage. And the marriage was all being organized and everything is going on very well. Sundaramurti was feeling immensely happy. So this marriage all was happening. So, but when Sundaramurti came here, he mentioned to Lord Shiva before he left Kailasam. This is what later on the great devotees talks about Sundaramurti in this way. That when he was told to leave Kailasam and come to this material world, he asked Lord Shiva for protection. He said, I will go because I have done this serious mistake. I mean, I have developed this desire in me to enjoy. He got attached to two women, not one, two women he got attached to. And Shiva said that you have to leave this place. No, Kailasam, you have to go. And they also had to take birth. Sundaramurti also had to come and take birth here. So Sundaramurti at that stage naturally got attracted to this. And it was at that time that everything was going on well. Right in the middle of that, an old man comes with a stick in the hand. He walked into the marquee. He came into the marquee and he straight away held Sundaramurti's hand like this and told him, "You cannot get married now," he says to Sundaramurti. Sundaramurti thought, who is this mad person coming and talking to me like this? He's he's the prince, isn't it? Son of the local ruler. So he will not give away. He will not give. Sundaramurti is trying to get it off him from there. He won't go. The old man won't go. Old man kept hanging on there, saying that I'm not going to let you get married here, he says. First of all, you settle my account, he says to Sundaramurti. Sundaramurti says, what account do I have to settle? Then he says to Sundaramurti, Sundaramurti, I know you. I know when you were born. You were only born yesterday. I know your father, I know your grandfather as well. They owe me money. You settle all that first and then you can get married. He says to Sundaramurti like this. Sundaramurti says, my father doesn't owe any money to anyone. No, my grandfather owes any money. You must be really a crazy person to talk to me like this. So this is how the whole scene has become very aggressive there. And all the people are observing this. All the people are observing this who are in the marquee. They were watching this, what was happening here. So, so the old man, although he was old, and he was so old that he couldn't even walk, but there was a strong effulgence from his face, and he could speak very well. He says, turns around and says to everyone, this person who is getting married, he owes me money. Unless he settles my account, I'm not going to let him get married here, he says. So all the other people, they did not listen to him first, seeing the old man. But when the old man started insisting again and again, being an old person, quite old person, they kept asking him, where are you from? We have not seen you in this village any time before. Where have you come from? He says, we'll talk about all that later. First, I will stop this marriage, he says. He was so particular about stopping Sundaramurti's marriage at that time. Sundaramurti's marriage at that time. So, in the history, there is no time a Brahmana will become a slave of another Brahmana. That has never happened. Because it's not in their nature, isn't it? If they haven't got money, they will just stay poor. They don't go and beg, or they don't go and become a slave of somebody. That's not in the Brahminical culture. It doesn't exist. So, so they asked this Brahmana, this old man who has come, who was also a Brahmana, but with a stick in the hand and very seriously talking about it. They asked him, where are you coming from? He says to them, I'm from the next village, Tirunainallur, that's the name of the village where he comes from. He says, I come from Tirunainallur, the next village. So, they were requesting him, at least let the marriage be over, then we will settle the account. So this Brahmana says, no, you cannot conduct the marriage now. And those Brahmana who were performing the sacrifice, their hands were not able to lift anything. It all stopped in the air like this because of the presence of this old person. Then they started taking him very seriously, that there is something happening here. They became very serious about it. So Sundaramurti asked this question, that you tell me that I owe you money, where is the proof? He says, Sundaramurti says this to this old Brahmana. Old Brahmana says to him, proof? I know that you will ask me for the proof, I brought with me, he says. Pulls out one piece of paper and gives it to him. Here is the proof, he says. He gives the proof. Sundaramurti gives the proof. And in that thing, Sundaramurti reads out and sees that, mentions that his father and grandfather is all slaves to so and so in this Tirunainallur village, and we owe so much money to him. What Sundaramurti did, Sundaramurti tore it into pieces and put it into the fire which was burning there. He put it into the fire. When he put it back into the fire, the old man would not let him go. He has come fully determined to sort this out. It was such a mood he had come, so determined he was. He says to him, Sundaramurti, I knew you were going to do this, so I come fully prepared for that. He says to Sundaramurti. And he says to Sundaramurti, and he says to Sundaramurti says to him, that this proof I cannot accept it, because you are saying here that I owe you so much money and all these kind of things. Where is this proof I cannot accept it, he says. So then he says to him, at that point it's mentioned, the jiva, the soul, spirit soul, has a relationship with Krishna. In a natural way. We all have a relationship with Krishna. So long as we have karma behind us, karma bandham. Karma bandham means this bondage in us, karma vasana in us, and desire to perform karma in this world. Immediately, whenever we get an opportunity to come out of it, we will develop fear in us. We will develop fear in us. You know why we find it difficult to live this material life? The reason is this. If somebody comes and offers liberation to us, we won't accept it. Why? Because karma bandham and karma vasana will take us in the opposite way. Will tell us that you have this karma to perform here. You have this duty to perform here. Or this is karma bandhanam. Karma bondage is like this. Bondage comes in this way. And as long as it's there, even if Krishna comes and tells us to come to Golokam, we will not go. We will say, no, I have got my duty here, I'll finish this and then I'll come here. We will say we are all great devotees because we don't understand how karma works in this world. Karma is so powerful that even if Krishna comes here personally, tells us, you can all come back now, we will say, no, I got my duty here, we will say to him. That is karma bandhanam. That is the bondage what we have got. So, in Sundaramurti's case also, the personality who had come to take him away was not an ordinary person. But inside that karma vasana was still there, he had to go through this karma bandhanam what he had. That Sundaramurti straight away refused to go with him and stayed back in that sense. So therefore it didn't happen. So all the local people started saying that we cannot sort this issue because you seems to be so obstinate and very determined to break this marriage happening. And just because you produced this proof on paper and Sundaramurti has put it into the fire, now we have no proof. What do we do now? How do we come to a conclusion? At that time, this old Brahmana who had come, he says to everybody there, if it is like that, let us have the local council, Panchayat they call it. The council, let them make the decision. The local council should meet and we should both put forward our position and let them make the decision. So Sundaramurti said, we will have the decision here, we will call the local council here. Brahmana says, no, that's not possible, he says. Because if we have the council meeting here, all your people are in the council. They will support you. So, but because this, you have signed this document in Tirunelveli, meeting should happen there, he said. You should all come there. He insists on that. So everybody agreed, okay, let's go to Tirunelveli, and they all go to Tirunelveli for deciding this issue of Sundaramurti's marriage. Really, is there money borrowed from this old Brahmana by Sundaramurti's parents or grandparents? And if it is so, Sundaramurti has to sort this out. In the past, I don't know what it's now, that if the parents have debt and they die in this world, the children are responsible for that, isn't it? There is some law like that. So, in those days it was like that they have to pay the debt. You can't say that because he's dead and gone. Now you can declare bankruptcy and then you don't owe anything to anybody, isn't it? But in them days it wasn't like that. There's no bankruptcy either. So, modern world gives you a lot of loopholes in that way. But in the past, it was different, that the Tirunelveli, his parents have borrowed money, his grandparents owe money. This was the old man's claim. Sundaramurti says, I have not borrowed any money. So Sundaramurti was taken to this local council in Tirunelveli village where the old man is coming from. When he got there, what happened was, in that assembly, in the local council, they all met together. So the local council people asked him what has happened. He says to them that this mad person has come and he has stopped my marriage, me getting married here. And he is telling me that I am his slave because my parents and grandparents owe him money. Therefore, I have to pay that money before he let me go. So then they asked this old man. So this was Sundaramurti's statement first. Then they asked the old man, what have you got to say about it? The old man says that I can prove it to you that his parents and grandparents owe me money and he hasn't paid, therefore he is my slave. I got this document written and signed and stamped and I got it with me, he says. So Sundaramurti says, you gave it to me, but something you put it in the fire. He says, no, I gave you a duplicate, he says. The original, I still have it because I knew you will throw it into the fire. So here it says, pulls out the original at that time and showed the original to him. So when he shows the original, he says these people couldn't say anything. They checked everything. The stamp is there. The signatures are there. Sundaramurti's parents' names are mentioned. Grandparents' names are mentioned. That they owe money to this old Brahmana. Everything documented well. So they had nothing. They couldn't refuse anything. And the result was that Sundaramurti had to become his slave. The marriage was stopped. Sundaramurti had to go with him. Sundaramurti goes with him. And at that time, Sundaramurti is crying. That everything has gone like this. He was crying. But old man is pacifying him. I look after you, don't worry about it, he says. I look after you, he says. And holding his hand, they went together for a short distance. And after one side he is crying, on the other side, Sundaramurti was feeling happiness also. Because so he was thinking that maybe it could be for my better. That I did not get entangled in this world. This was also he was telling him. As soon as they reached the temple in Tirunelveli, the old man walked inside and they haven't seen him after that. It was Shiva himself who came in that dress to save his own devotee from getting caught up in this world. All this has happened at the age of 16 in Sundaramurti's life. So from this incident onward, it's a long story. Sundaramurti's life is so interesting. This was the first incident that happened in his life. And then after that, Sundaramurti understood who had come. See, when Krishna wants to give the memory of the past, Sundaramurti knew where he came from. So often he remembered the past, that he had a life, a better life than here in this world. But while living in that temple in Tirunelveli, Sundaramurti gets attracted to somebody there, another woman. In that temple, he wanted to marry her. Now the problem comes for Sundaramurti. Sundaramurti wants to get married. How? And he can't take up this matter with the girl. So what he does is, in those days the marriages were arranged, isn't it? Completely arranged marriages from the parents. So Sundaramurti goes to Lord Shiva and tells him that I want to marry that girl. So you please go and talk to the parents on behalf of me and talk to them to get her married to me. Lord Shiva accepts that. Shiva is like that. He is willing to do that service for the devotee. When you read this verse, Bhadhyamanomi Malbhakto Vishayai Ajirendriyehi, he has, Sundaramurti is such a devotee that as far as bhakti is concerned, he has reached a very high stage. But at the same time, these little things are happening in his life. So it was at that time, one day, Sundaramurti was a devotee. Devotee means that in his life there was nothing else. He was a devotee, in strict sense, 24 hours absorbed in Lord Shiva. That was his life. He had no interest, but while living in this world, these things, incidents happens in his life. So one day, Sundaramurti, in the famous temple in Chidambaram, there is the festival. So Sundaramurti goes there, and while going to Chidambaram, there is a village where he has to pass through. And in that village, another great personality, another Shiva's devotee, Appa, was born in that village. And because Sundaramurti had great reverence towards Appa, he did not want to walk through that village. He circumambulates the village and goes to Chidambaram. Such was their devotion inside, particularly such great devotees, so absorbed in their mind 24 hours. So Sundaramurti, in the night, he wanted to rest somewhere. So he got into some temple somewhere, and outside the temple they have a little basement-like thing where you could sleep in the night. People will come and take rest there in the night who are visiting the temple. A base that they have been built for, a little higher platform where people could sleep. Just only the bare facility, you could sleep there. They'll put some cloth and they'll lie and sleep there. So Sundaramurti was sleeping like that. Sundaramurti, while he was sleeping, an old man comes at that time. It's not the same, another form, an old person comes. He comes and says to Sundaramurti, can you move a little bit so that I can also lie here? There was not so much space in that base where they were sleeping. Sundaramurti says, what a nuisance this is. Comes and disturbs me, I'm so tired, I want to sleep sometime. Old man won't give up. Old man says, no, move a little bit, let me lie here, he says. Old man lies next to him. So, in villages when they sleep, after they have slept for a while, this old man's leg goes on top of Sundaramurti like this. Sundaramurti is lying next to him. So Sundaramurti gets disturbed. He says, he is disturbing my sleep. So he gets up from there. And he goes further away and lies there. Hardly 5 minutes have gone. The old man has got up from here and comes next and lies next to Sundaramurti there. So Sundaramurti gets angry and says to him, why have you come now? He says, alone I was feeling frightened to sleep there on my own. So I've come to, so don't disturb me. He says, let me sleep here. Again Sundaramurti sleeps and this old person sleeps there. After 10 minutes, again, some people are like that. When they sleep, they'll rotate 360 degrees. Have you noticed them? In the bed, they sleep in one place. They can rotate like this, 360 degrees they'll move. Sometimes children also, you can observe like that. If you put them in sleep somewhere, when they wake up they'll be somewhere else. That's how the nature is. So this old man also is like that. He was sleeping, but after a while all his hands, legs, everything was on Sundaramurti's body. And he was sleeping, snoring also at the same time. Sundaramurti gets angry again, gets up and holds on to his feet, his old man's feet, and begs to him, please leave me alone. Old man disappears at that time. It's Shiva who has come because Sundaramurti was praying to Shiva, give me Padadiksha. Diksha or initiation is given in different ways. One kind of initiation is with the feet. The spiritual master puts his feet on the head of the disciple, and that is one kind of diksha. There are so many, Naina diksha, Kukkuta diksha, Malsi diksha, all related to different kinds of living entities. Something like fish, there is a kind of initiation like the fish. That means, and similarly tortoise, another kind of initiation. So Pada diksha is where we put your feet and give you initiation. Kabir had that initiation from Swami Ramananda through the feet. That is Pada diksha. Kabir was, Ramananda Swamiji put his feet on Kabir's head by mistake, and Kabir has taken that as his diksha. That you will read in the Kabir's life. So similarly, Pada diksha he wanted, our Sundaramurti. So he got Pada diksha enough now, and the old man disappeared. And he goes away from there. Sundaramurti Nayana continues like this. Then in one instance he says like this, that Sundaramurti's words were that if this is all happening in Sundaramurti's life, but Sundaramurti is always thinking, absorbed in Shiva. But at the same time, he was not continuously absorbed in getting married, but he has requested Lord Shiva about this. So in one instance what happened was, and that Sundaramurti had made this request to Shiva. Shiva goes and talks to this lady, Paravainachya, that was her name. He spoke to her parents, and Paravainachya, Shiva took the form of the pujari there in the temple and goes to them to talk to the parents, to marry her to Sundaramurti. So because he was pujari and went and spoke to them, they will not accept that. They will not accept that. They said to the pujari, if Shiva himself comes and tells us, then we are willing to marry her to him. So Shiva comes back and says to Sundaramurti, this is what has happened. I went there, Sundaramurti asked him, how did you go? He said, I went in the pujari's dress. That's the mistake, he says. Sundaramurti says to Shiva, that was the mistake you have done. You should go as Shiva himself and then talk to them, they will listen. Next day Shiva goes in the night, appears in the dream and says to both the father and the mother, marry her to Sundaramurti. So immediately they accepted that. It has happened to both of them, the husband and the wife, that means the parents of this girl. And the next day the marriage was all organized. Only thing was, this girl wanted Sundaramurti to take a vow. What was the vow? That Sundaramurti will not get married again and he will not go away from that village. These two vows. So Sundaramurti, knowing very well his own nature, that as soon as festival season comes in Chidambaram and many other temples, Sundaramurti is in ecstasy. He has to go there, participate in the temple, see all the devotional activities in the temple. All these things Sundaramurti wanted to be participant. So Sundaramurti was told by this girl that he has to take a vow not to go anywhere else. After the marriage, he should settle down there in the temple. In that case, she is willing to marry. Sundaramurti says to Shiva that she is requesting me that I should take a vow in front of you, in front of the deity. I should take a vow that I will not go away from here and I will marry this girl and live here the rest of the life. That is difficult, Sundaramurti says. So what is the alternative? Alternative is that he says to Shiva, you don't stay in the temple when I come to take the vow. There is a tamarind tree outside, go and sit on top of that. He says to Shiva, devotee saying to the Lord. So Shiva goes away and stays on top of the tamarind tree. When this girl and Sundaramurti came there and she is asking Sundaramurti to take the vow, Sundaramurti looks inside and he cannot see Shiva inside. She wasn't there at that time. And he takes the vow and then they get married and they live there. And after a while, when the festival came up in Chidambaram, Sundaramurti wants to leave. Sundaramurti wants to leave. And at that time, Sundaramurti's wife says to him that you have taken this vow before. Sundaramurti says, I have taken in front of Shiva any vow. I have not said like that. Sundaramurti changes his word. So this girl gets very affected. She is also a devotee. She goes to Shiva and complains to him that he has taken this vow in front of you and now he is refusing, he is denying everything. What should I do? So Shiva was in a dilemma, what to do. Two devotees, but Sundaramurti, Shiva knew who he is, why he had come here. And this little desire he had to marry this girl has been causing this problem for Sundaramurti a lot. So Sundaramurti, Shiva knew very well that Sundaramurti does not belong to this world. He comes from Kailasam, he has to go. And on the other hand, this attachment here was causing this problem for him. So it was then that one night suddenly Sundaramurti disappeared from there, from the place, without any knowledge. He disappeared from there. And on the way, he meets with another girl, and he wants to marry her. The first marriage itself is not broken properly, or it has not come to an end. He wants to marry this girl. So when he wants to marry the second girl, again he is saying to her that he sees her, some attachment develops inside that he wants to marry her. Attachment has not gone away. Bhagyamano bimal bhakto vishaye ajidendriyehi praya pragalbhaya bhatyam. Krishna says here, isn't it? That he is devotee, but he has not managed to get over these attachments inside. Praya pragalbhaya bhaktya vishaye nabhibhuyate. Vishayer nabhibhuyate. It is a fight going on inside. On one side is sense enjoyment, attachment to sense enjoyment, married life, all that happiness. On the other side, powerful bhakti is pulling him in the opposite direction. That is what Krishna is talking about here. On the one hand, the attachment towards the first wife and now to the second wife, these things are coming in his life and he is tracking him on one way. On the opposite side, praya pragalbhaya bhaktya vishayer nabhibhuyate. To prove that this Krishna's words are true, what's happening now? Sundaramurti, at that point in time, he goes and requests this girl to marry him. Directly goes and requests to this girl to marry him. She eventually she came to know about this first marriage. So she says to him, unless the first marriage is broken, I cannot marry you. I cannot marry you. So when she brought this issue, Sundaramurti goes to Shiva to find a solution to the problem. To find a solution to the problem. So all the problems handed over to Shiva. And Sundaramurti carries on with his life in this world. Eventually, Shiva has to interfere and pull him out from both the marriages and take him away from here. He left this world at the age of 20. At the age of 20, everything finished. But when Sundaramurti finished these two marriages, Shiva's arrangement was such that marriage didn't last long. It didn't work out. It didn't work out, somehow or the other it all broke up. And Sundaramurti became so serious in his bhakti. Rest of the life, few years what was left, he was wandering around in all the temples glorifying Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva told him to sing about him, and those famous Devayans which Sundaramurti has sung are famous about glorifying Shiva. And at that time, Sundaramurti asked Shiva, how should I glorify you? Shiva says to him, the way we met first time each other, you call me a mad person, isn't it? You call me a mad person. Because you call me, I am a mad person, that's why I come to stop your marriage. I'm talking madness, he said. So, glorify me as a mad person. And Sundaramurti's songs about Lord Shiva is addressing him as a mad person. That's how all the songs he wrote about Shiva. And in addition to that, Shiva told him, the first time when we met, you were like a prince, isn't it? So remain in the rest of the life fully dressed up like this. Like a prince, always in best clothes and the best attire, ready for the marriage, best clothes and everything. So Sundaramurti, you will see, is worshipped in that dress even today, in the temples, in those temples there. So important thing is that a devotee comes a short period of life in this world, from 16 to 20, it's 4 years, all these things have happened in his life. All these things have happened in life and he has gone back. But in that 4 years, you see here, the way he conducted the business in this life, Badhyamano biman bhakto vishaye ajidendriyehi, that still there is some sensual attachment. This is what you find in some devotee's life. That they will come here, in great devotion they have inside, they are great devotees of the Lord, but at the same time there will be some sense enjoyment also in their life. And that sense enjoyment, even though it will disturb them for some time, praya pragalbhaya bhaktya vishayaerna vibhuyate, eventually their bhakti wins, sense enjoyment loses the battle, and they go back home, back to God. They go back to Krishna. So this is not only, this is one example of Sundaramurti. I've spoken in little detail, but there are many instances like this in different temples and different traditions. If you keep inquiring, you will find them also. That there were devotees like this, they were great devotees, but this one issue they had, somewhere, some attachment in this world. Badhyamano, that is what Krishna is saying in this verse. Badhyamano bimal bhakto vishaye ajidendriyehi praya pragalbhaya bhaktya vishayerna vibhuyate. Every verse is important in the Bhagavatam. Particularly these verses, this is not about spiritual knowledge. This is about how bhakti develops in a person and how to find where is bhakti, how this bhakti happens in a person, and in that process what all can happen. We cannot write off a person just because certain things have happened in his life. We don't know about anybody. You can't. That is why in the Bhagavatam, the first thing Kapila Vasudeva says to Devahudi Devi, I will tell you about all kinds of devotees, 3 types of devotees, the best, the middle one, and the Prakritam, Madhyamam, Adhamam. 3 kinds of devotees, under 3 modes of nature, Sattvam, Rajas and Tamas. I am telling you these things only to verify yourself. Don't use this and start judging others, what group they belong to. Then you will be in trouble. Because although these rules are mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam about devotees' different nature, if we start taking it upon others and we start classifying them, he is a first class, he is second class, he is third class, then we will be in serious trouble. Because when you see these kind of devotees, what Krishna is saying here, in their devotion, if you start seeing them, you automatically will start thinking, he is not a great devotee, he belongs to the 3rd category, or something. We will start misjudging things in that way. That's why Krishna says, Badhyamano vimal bhakto vishaye ajidendriyaha praya pragalbhaya bhaktya vishayerna vibhuyate. So that's all about that verse. And we will continue. There are so many other verses all about bhakti. What is bhakti? We have to understand what Krishna is saying about bhakti, and then we can understand something about Krishna consciousness. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Oh yeah, sorry. You know that we have a class on Friday, next Friday. Here. I forgot to say that. Morning, 6 o'clock. Not evening, 6 o'clock morning. Don't come at 6 in the evening. You won't be here. 6 to 9 on Friday morning.
And Monday.
And Monday.
And the same for them. And the same for them.
Following week, yes.
I've got to be prepared.